All right, all right, all right. It's your favorite day of the week, Monday night, live in the Counselor's Corner for another open court discussion. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co-host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Oh,
And we also have on the panel the delightful Jackie Brown.
Blessed evening, everyone.
All right, and whoever, the for the rest of the panel, it'd be a showtime decision, so we never know who would pull up. Recap from this past Monday's broadcast. Do black men and women really want each other? If you're interested in the subject matter, please go back and watch the replay on the Controversial Counselor's YouTube channel. Now, moving forward to tonight show, we will lead off with segment one: Caucasians, myths, lies, and the truth. Here are a few that we will address tonight. And these were this whole topic came from a stat or post in the counselor's corner, and one of the myths was, "What's your fascination with mayonnaise?" Um, Number two: Why do you kiss your pets in the mouth and allow them to eat off your food? Three: Why don't you use washcloths in the shower? So I know these sound shallow, but these are questions that were asked on the Counselor's Corner Facebook group. So we're going to go deeper into that. And I'm going to lead off the segment with um, sort of like, I'm your favorite storyteller, some stories from the past that I dealt with as far as myths. So, segment two: happily married but living separately. So, that's trending, that people are having their own spot. You stay here, I stay there. We, get together, spend 3, 4 days out of the week, and we're happy. So, loving. So here's some of the reasons, pros and cons: loving your solitude and space, more loving time when you see each other. Three, possibly growing apart. That would be a con. And then insecurities. One of you worried about what the other is doing all the time. So buckle up, get ready for some exciting, engaging back and forth dialogue. Please like and share our video. And don't forget to tell someone to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. So we are currently sitting at, I think, like 637 subs, and we're getting closer to my short-term goal of 650. Then, like I said, the next goal will be 7 subs.
Sorry.
Closer to my short. So the next goal would be 700 after that. So here we have it. Before I bring you on and Herb to give y'all, opening remarks, I'm gonna dive into. Well, now let's do that. Let's do that first. Give y'all got any open remarks? Then I'm gonna lead off the segment with the myths. Anything good with y'all?
you can go right on ahead. I will follow what you got.
Anything you want to say, Jackie, before we get going?
No, I'm going to follow your lead with that because I do have stuff to say, but I'm going to wait for you. I'm going to wait for you. Yes.
So, it's been a lot. It's been interesting promoting this. As I said in my promo yesterday, that TikTok actually took it down, which I thought was interesting because I've seen tons of videos with that same voice, and it says, "What do black people," like the one I seen yesterday? What do black people do when they're at a cookout? And it had examples of them running out with their Tupperware in the red cup and all that stuff. I said, so it's interesting. So they could single out and say that I mentioned Caucasian, they want to take my stuff down.
Wow.
So I thought that
Wow.
interesting. Then, I've been
Yes.
getting some slack in the counselor's corner. Why are y'all having this subject matter? Why y'all talking about that? Who is the expert that's going to be on your panel? I'm like, I don't know who's going to be on the panel. It might be someone in the chat, but we still can have this conversation. I'm thinking, like, how long have we've been doing this and talking about making people uncomfortable to get comfortable and to grow. And sometimes you're going to have courageous conversations. Well, I had those conversations um, with some Caucasian females years ago at my job, Bryan and Stratton. I had one in particular. I was there before her, so she came in and she was kind of aggressive. Used to come in, talk crap to me, but I always give her props because she's one of the ones who motivated me to finally go back to get my master's. Because she used to always, I guess she figured like if I talk shit to him, maybe I can he'll open up. So she used to, come in, get on my case, like, so you just gonna sit here, be the smartest one in here. Why don't you go back to school? And I was like, I don't feel like it. I ain't got time to be writing no papers and all of that stuff. And eventually I thought about it, and but she was pushing me every day. But besides that, it was a lot of myths and stuff that we had that we would go back and forth. And some of the things that used to be said is, uh, well, let me just lead off how it came about. And I think I shared this before. It was me. We were in her office, and it was maybe like four other Caucasian people in there. And she said, "Let's play a game." And they like, "What?" Let's turn off the. And this was an ignorant statement, but again, stuff like that don't bother me. I laugh at it. When you know yourself, you're good. She said, "Let's play a game. See if we can find David in the dark." So they like, so they was like, oh my God, why would you say that? And she was like, y'all don't understand. And like how white people, she said, this motherfucker talks more shit than anybody. You guys think he's quiet. He says his stuff. So we used to go back and forth, and there used to be myths that I would say. I would say, I would tell her that, I don't want to be, don't judge me or whatever, but I shouldn't say that because I know everybody judge. But I would say she smells like, would say comments like white people smell like baloney. It, she would say, come back and say stuff like, well, I know black people all smell like fried chicken. And we would kind of go back and forth. And then she had mentioned that to them. She was like, he says all this stuff. He says that when white people are wet, they smell like wet dogs. Now, granted, I never smelled no one to say that, but it was just a myth that I heard. And since we were going back and forth, I would I threw that out there. And then, sometimes when I would be on my way to work and it was a traffic jam, I'll say, well, it's a traffic jam. And usually when you look over on the side of the road, it's always a Caucasian person with their car turned upside down because they can't drive. So she would come back and say, "Oh, the reason that is because none of y'all motherfuckers have cars. Y'all are catching the metro or either locked up." So this is the stuff that we used to go back and
That
say.
was funny.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm over here. I'm dying laughing. I had to mute myself. I said I can't. Girl, good to see you.
Yeah. So we would go back and
Yeah.
forth like that. And it was a time that because I used to keep to myself. So we were having like a happy hour before Thanksgiving. Everybody was going out, and they were like, "We know David's not going to come. David's not going to come." And then she was like, "I think I could get him to come." And it was like, "How the hell are you going to do that? He's not going to leave, go home, and then come back. He's not going to come." She was like, "I think he'll come." So I did end up going, but that was because me and her had the back and forths and even the myths, jokes, or whatever the case is, kind of opened up everything, opened up our dialogue, and had built trust. Because after that, she was like funny to me, but none of the stuff she said really impacted me like that. Because again, when you know yourself, uh, you have a better understanding, and you don't let things bother you. So that was one example. Then it was another one. I'm gonna make this one quick. We had another one that, and this ties into the comments of being nosy in the non-seasoned food. So one time I was being petty, being a jerk. Me and my man, he used to work there, so we would take our lunch around 2 o'clock. If it was raining or if it was cold, we would stay inside and be in the break room. So this one young lady, she used to always take her lunch like clockwork, like 11:30, 12 o'clock. Then all of a sudden we started noticing, why is she taking her lunch at 2? Well, she wanted to be back there to be nosy, pretend like she was reading the newspaper to kind of listen to some of the stuff that we were saying. You know, we were talking about women, we were talking about this or that, sports, a little bit of everything. So one time, because she was Italian, she had made they were having to get together for me, and she was like, "What did I want for my birthday?" I said, "Well, make me some lasagna." That used to be my favorite food at the time, and so she's like, "Yeah, I can make that. I make that real good. Whatever. I got the homemade sauce and all that stuff." I'm like, "Okay." So needless to say, it was all right. It wasn't all that, but so my man had he actually is married to my cousin, so he was like, "I know you ain't bring no lunch, so I made some lasagna last night." And you know, I hooked it up, whatever. I said, "So let me make sure I grab you a piece." So I'm eating it now. She's back there being nosy, so you know I have to like, damn, dude, like this shit is all right, man. The sauce is all seasoned and tastes all good, and I'm just carrying on like it was the best day. So meanwhile, she peeping over the newspaper. Then I kept going on with it. I was like, damn, man, like you should go in business. Like, should are you Italian? The way this sauce tastes. So her ass like stormed out of there, pissed off. It did called me later on and was like, you know what? She was like, "You're so fucking rude. Fuck you. And don't ask me to make you no lasagna anymore. And you can have tell Brian to make you some next time." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." But I'm saying all this to be saying we went back and forth. But when I needed something, say for example, like I was in transition of getting another car, so I was without a car for about a week or so. Guess who came to pick me up? They alternated. One picked me up, the other one dropped me off. Uh, and even the one with the lasagna who stormed out that weekend, I didn't have a car, so she was like, "I just got to run some errands. If you need me to come pick you up, and you could use my car for the weekend, just make sure." Well, she didn't even say make sure. She knew I was gonna bring it back on Sunday. She was like, "But you can use my car because I know you like to run around or whatever the case is. So, and you need a car." So I'm saying all this to be saying, even though all of that stuff, misunderstandings, things that were said, we still had a bond and they came through. Like if I needed some type for school, they were coming through. If I needed research or anything. So it worked. It was cool. It was cool. So myths are going to be out there, but that's why you had these courageous conversations to try to break that down. And Sir Tice has said something valuable in the counselor's corner. He said, "People, you act like it's 1954. Most of us should have some Caucasian friends that these myths shouldn't be out there. You should be able to have these conversations and say something to them, and they'll let you know." He said, "And you're acting like, again, like it was 1954." So I understood what he was saying because me and my conversations with them, I would say what was on my mind, and then they would come back with their rebuttal and like, shit, it's not like that. So that's that. All right. Y'all can have I'm quiet for the next 10, 15 minutes.
You know what's amazing about when I first saw this, first saw the meaning, first saw the question, I should say. I won't say you posted because that individual's not here to say whether they were being comical or they're being serious. And then I started looking at some of the replies. And I said to myself, I said, this has to be like some kind of a crude joke. Like it really can't be serious because half of these things, they just simply are true. I mean, I understand where the myths come from because we eat differently into what you were saying. Now, what people don't realize is when Americans talk about Italian food, we tend to talk about terms in red sauce and pastas. But if you go to Sicily, if you go to southern Italy and middle Italy, they don't consider that Italian food. They look at you like, that's not Italian. Matter of fact, there's an episode in Sopranos for all you Soprano fans when Tony goes over there and he's talking about, I want some spaghetti, I just want some red sauce and balls. They have no idea what the hell he's talking about. So we have to always bear in mind that even though the United States exports its culture more so than it does anything tangible, that a lot of these things really aren't as true as we think they are. They're only true because, like David said, a lot of us just simply don't expose ourselves to other cultures. Jackie was just talking about making I can't remember the dish you said, the veggie grits. I never heard of such a thing. Now, I would tell you when I went to college at Buffalo State, Jamaican patties were the shit. Never heard of them. Got the Buff State, started going to Carabana, which is in Toronto, which is about an hour north of where I am. I was just like, yo, this shit is good. Black people, we always talk about, oh, we're looked at as the only ethnicity that eats fried chicken. But we understand in the South, fried chicken is a delicacy. Let me tell you how it's a delicacy. There's a couple places. Kentucky Fried Chicken, started by a white man. Chick-fil-A, Popeyes. All are those are brands that specialize in a brand of fried chicken. Each having their own recipe to season chicken. And guess who lines up at those places? Us. So I'm trying to figure out why that becomes a statement as if it's true. All that it tells me is that the people who are asking that question are borderline bigots and they need to get out of travel more. These are the type of things that really keep us as Americans separated, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And I know we are raised on a generation that watched the Jeffersons and Archie Bunker's place. Those are fantastic examples of why we need to actually speak to each other as opposed to speaking at each other, as they say. Because the more we converse, just like David said, the more you converse with each other, the more you find out you're more alike than you are dissimilar. We all eat chicken. It's just prepared different ways. Another talking point is mayonnaise. Why do y'all eat mayo? Macaroni salad, tuna salad, potato salad. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't mayonnaise put in all of those? I mean, maybe it's the way that my mother prepared it or somebody else prepared it, but I know that without the mayonnaise as a binder, that stuff falls apart. So I'm trying to figure out why that is still a talking point. Another thing that was talked about was washcloths. I know I go into Walmart or wherever it is, Target or any other place that sells toiletries. We as black people only make up about 17% of the population. I know some of us like to wash our ass, and I said some of us because some of us don't. We not using all those washcloths. So who's buying them?
Exactly, because they always sold out. They always sold out in my color. And I know the black people is not going to buy because we don't even have matching towel sets in most of our houses.
Talk about it. Talk about it. So who buying them? And if they buying
Exactly.
them, you don't think they're using them? And I'm just like, yo, man, some of these, like I said, some of these questions I read, I'm just like, and then they wonder why the racial divide in this country along certain lines just keeps growing. Because everybody want to take shots and then hide their hands. Nobody wants to sit down and have the kind of conversation and the kind of back and forth that David had. And those are the type of things that grow relationships, that foster relationships. As David said, we're not opposed to taking on the controversy that is America. America is one big walking contradiction at times. Why? Because at the core, its citizens is its citizenship, and its citizenship sometimes a walking contradiction. They'll say this, but they don't want you to say that. Well, you can't say that because it's insensitive. Once upon a time, blackface was all the rage. They had black people coloring themselves to imitate black people, and that was offensive. Understandably so. The Wayans brothers about a decade ago made a movie called White Girls, in which they dressed up as white girls. Now black people thought that was funny. Ha ha, kiki. But the moment Fuzzy Zeller makes a comment about Tiger Woods and watermelon at the Masters, everybody want to be upset. Can't have it both ways. Either you roll with the punches or you don't give them. So a lot of this nonsense that people peddle as just things that white people do aren't. Somebody asked a question about why are white people always nosy. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Big Mama used to sit on the porch. She would monitor the block.
I don't care what nobody say. I'm nosy as they have them. I have the police scan on my phone and everything.
Honestly, and people wonder why our neighborhoods fall apart. That's because we don't have anybody sitting out there keeping
Paying
track of who's coming,
attention.
who's going,
Yeah.
who's doing what, and who shouldn't be there.
Because I can tell you every car that belongs here and every car that don't. Who's the daughters, who's the grandsons. And it's my business, it's my neighborhood. Me and my kids
Damn
live
right.
around here.
Damn right. We
And it's so
need to
good
have more
to
people.
like that. Yeah. My at my great grandmother's house, and she's lived here for years. When I first moved down here, I stayed at her house for like 2 or 3 weeks. And because my car was there past the weekend, that Tuesday they called. They were like, "Hey," no, they actually came by. They knocked on the door. It was like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." And then she was like, "No, no, no, no. I just saw that you were here this weekend. I just wanted to make sure Miss Deans wasn't sick or anything." And I was like, "No, no, no. I'm moving down here, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll see me here more." And she was just like, "Oh, thank God. Just making sure." So she was that vigilant to know, and she knows that, typically my great grandmother's there by herself. And, it's not around the family reunion time. It's not around certain season times or, the holidays. She was like, why are you not almost like a why are you here? I want to make sure everything's good.
It was definitely more safety back in those days. And like you said, my grandmother used to be on the porch in her same spot and wouldn't miss a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Knew
Yeah.
everybody. Would call you over there. Who was that boy? I ain't
Mm.
never seen him around here. Now, better be mindful because he looked like he looked like he a handful, and
Hmm.
she would pick up on everything. Be careful of him. Don't leave your bike or don't leave this or that. He looked like he up to no good. She would peg somebody just like that, and they knew. And I think people knew that people was watching, but nowadays nobody's watching, and that's why everybody's reckless and do what
Yeah.
the
Yep.
hell they want to do.
I told you across the street from me, I had this little boy I called my son only because he was always outside by himself, 3 years old. And I done walked him back to the door so many times. Barely know them. I only know the mother because I always knocking on their door, but I don't know them from a can of paint. I just know this little boy shouldn't be outside by himself continuously, but we don't have that no more.
To, to answer your question, Mr. Carlos, yes, man, we do. We need people that's going to start policing our neighborhoods from the aspect of sitting out there saying, hey, look, you shouldn't be doing that. Who you know on this block? What business you got here? Big Mama, that was Big Mama's duty. She didn't have to work because the grandfather took in the money to take care of the homes. Now I know those dynamics don't necessarily exist in today's modern age where both parents mostly have to work. But that doesn't mean that they can't be community watchers, neighborhood watchers. You think about it. Anywhere those signs are posted, you know that neighborhood is generally safe, especially after the sun go down. No pun intended, the sundown times, because that's not what I'm talking about. But when we start to police ourselves in our own neighborhoods, those neighborhoods become safer. And what's one of the things that politicians always talk about at election time, if it isn't the economy, they talk about public safety. We keep hearing about defund the police, defund that. Look, the police wouldn't be necessary if we clean up our own neighborhoods. People know who's shooting. People know who's selling. People know who's dealing. And because a cut of that money is coming somebody's way, mouths are closed. Nothing said, nothing solved. And I'm not trying to absolve police of their duty in terms of crime solving, but we have to realize that in this country, when we talk about felonies, particularly homicide, a lot of those crimes are unsolved, regardless of the ethnicity, because people aren't trying to snitch. They think it's a bad thing. I like being able to go to the store and not have to worry about locking my door. I've done it on several occasions. That's a comforting feeling to me. But I realize the neighborhood I live in is a pretty safe neighborhood. It's a mixed ethnicity neighborhood. I have people that are are Muslim living up the street, Caucasian people. We used to have a Hispanic family that lived up the street before they moved off the block. I live in a multi-diverse neighborhood, and there's nothing that I like better than walking up the block, going somewhere, whether it was going to rollerblade or shoot baskets, and hearing calypso or some other type of Caribbean music. That to me said America. And uh, I'm sorry, just drew a blank with her name. Put that up earlier that America is a multitude of cultures. And she's absolutely correct. But we tend to want to lock out cultures that we don't identify with and make fun of them. And then we wonder why kids go to school and start bullying other people's because they learn it at home. They think it's fun. Oh, I got my friends here, so we just gonna pick on the little kid over there that's isolated because he doesn't have anybody or she doesn't have anybody there to defend her. So that's where a lot of this nonsense starts. Kids are, and it's the old blank slate theory. Kids will be what you program them to be. So if you program them to be friendly, they'll be friendly. If you program them to be hostile, they'll be hostile. If you program them to be gracious, they'll be gracious. Correct, Daphne. It's destructive to America. I'll tell you the story and then I'll yield the floor. I remember after 9/11 happened, me and my crew at the time, we were going to Toronto. We were going somewhere. I can't remember where. It may have been to one of the adult entertainment bars at the time or to the casino. They had so much security at the border to leave, okay, to leave the country that it was insane. They were armed, MAC 10s. Never, ever, up to that point in my years of traveling between the United States and Canada, have they ever had security leaving the US. They didn't care before. 9/11, all of that changed. They shined a flashlight into the car, saw it was a car full of black men, and said, "You guys are fine. You can go." And I remember saying, "We are no longer on the bottom rung of society's ladder." And I was happy. Admittedly, I was happy that black people no longer were catching hell in this country. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that in my happiness, somebody else's was taking my place and they were going to be filled with sorrow. Because it was unfair to them that they were born the ethnicity that they were, but now they have to turn around and bear the societal brunt because a few extremists decided to do something that everybody believes that was wrong. Some people believe it was staged. I'm not even getting into that because that's conspiracy theories, and I'm not going down that hole, and certainly not on this platform. But those are the type of things that when we start getting to peer, that keeps us separate. And it doesn't allow for us to come together until a crisis occurs. And it shouldn't take a crisis for us to reach out to somebody that doesn't share the same ethnicity, the same cultural background, the same music, the same taste in food, to be friendly and neighbors.
All right. Jackie, I know you said you had some things that you wanted to say based on this subject matter.
Well, Herb covered a lot of it. So yeah, he did. So it was good to hear, because he was speaking for me as well. Um, I just think that with the diversity, especially, let's hit the safety thing first. Um, where I live, they just sent out a memo to everyone, um, letting us all know in the complex that people are walking around that's checking doors and stuff and trying to go into people's homes and all of that. So much of that is so much more common over the few years, and people going into people's cars, and I don't know. I haven't experienced that as much as within the past 5 years. Just being vandalized or just feeling unsafe in certain places. So that's an issue for me. And then when it comes down to the opposite side of the spectrum and the way Caucasians look at things, I have a mixed family set. They're part of my family as well. So, like I told you guys, I was Jamaican, Indian, and Irish. So, and then my dad added a lot more stuff in the mix. They are a lot different. They don't think like we do. They don't see things the way we do. They can't relate to our issues and circumstances that we may have to deal with in the way we deal with them. Uh, of course, once you're born into eating a certain way, that's fine. But the original person, such as the mom, they're not used to that type of food. They have to grow to like those things. But when it comes down to them being clean in a certain way, I sent a video out that was a reel that I came across on Instagram. And I don't know if I sent it to you, David. I don't know if I sent it to you, but this reel in it you'll see like a toilet bowl. This white person literally made macaroni and cheese and did it in the toilet. They actually prepared it in the toilet.
It's gross.
And for them to put stuff like that online, it just really like it did something to me. Like I didn't think, but then it just brought me back to um Dr. Francis Cress Wrestling. um and just all of the things and that, from back then, which I don't even want to mess with right now, and how they came up about just everything just kind of just exploded in my head. And I'm like, I just can't trust it. I can't trust I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't trust it at all. And it's interesting because a counselor sometimes needs a counselor, right? And so I decided to, reach out because as I shared with you guys privately, I've been going through a lot of stuff. So anyway, um, they decided where I went, they decided that they wanted after the intake, fine. I'm good with all of that. And they gave me this one young lady, and she, of course, is a Caucasian young lady. So she asked me many questions, and I told her, I said, my biggest thing is I want to talk to someone of my kind. I don't want to sit and talk to someone that can't relate to my blackness, to black issues, to black
Look at
situations,
look at
and to black responses. Okay. So she said, oh, I understand. But then the more I kept talking to her, I literally, something drew my attention to the surroundings in the room. And I looked at the picture she had on the wall. I looked at all these different things. And everything on that wall, when you're spiritually inclined with different things and have knowledge, everything that in on that wall showed that she was a witch. So I said to her, I said, so I knew someone black and I knew someone who is going to be spiritually aware of stuff when it comes down to black folks and how we stand on religion and how we feel about certain things. And she was okay with that. But then I looked up at her pictures again and I said, so what side of the spectrum are you on spiritually? She says, well, I don't have any religion. I said, so that's the issue for me. So, could you please make sure that you get me this person? She literally said to me, oh no, I want to talk to you some more. And I want to be able to, you know, see how I can help you. And I'll see if that young lady, the black girl, has any space and anything like that. Listen, I said, I need you to switch me over to this young lady. I'm not going to double talk with anyone. She literally on the appointment that came up this week that I decided to skip to assign me to herself. I called up there and I asked who am I assigned to. They told me her. I gave them a spiel. I told them about themselves and I told them if things don't change, I know that I can leave. I haven't started with anybody and I don't have to go through it. And when I explained to the person I was talking to, which is a Caucasian, she said, "You know what? I get it. And I know what's in her office, and I understand that too." And she said, "You know what? I know that black people like talking to other black people because y'all relate more than we can relate to you." And I said, "Thank you for understanding. So could you please put that in check so that I can make sure I'm okay with who I'm going to talk to?" About 2 hours later, she called me on the job. I stepped out the room, put a call, and then I was like, okay, they they took care of it. But I was begging for this, and I kept calling for this, and I don't know. They have this thing where they feel like I want to do what I want to do the way I want to do it. Just flow with me, and I don't do that well. Okay, if you follow me, I know y'all follow me. Did I lose anybody?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And there was a level of control that took over from her side. And she felt like she was going to make it be the way she felt. And I just felt off. I really felt off about having to have somebody trying to control where I go to or who I see. And they're like 30 years of my junior. I can't. I can't. But anyhow, I'm going to
Well,
shut up now.
let me ask you a question. Do you think she was doing this because she wanted to know more about your specific culture, or do you think she was doing it from a power dynamic?
I believe that she was doing it from a power dynamic because after she found out that I have counseling background, I have all this stuff in my background. We discussed it because I want to be forthcoming to people that they don't try to go around bushes with me. I don't take me up and down the street. Don't give me no mountains and valleys. We're going to hit subjects because that's what I do when I talk to people. So we're going to hit subjects. If I know that certain things you cannot talk to me about, we will not have that conversation because that's one of the reasons why I don't deal with. Listen to this. I had someone else when I had a trauma back in 2020. And when that trauma happened to me, I said, God, I don't know what's happening. Why? So I said, I need to talk to somebody because I can't hold all this because I'm helping people and I can't even help myself right now because I'm
Mhm.
trying to deal with stuff myself. So, okay, dealt with this private lady. My mother got COVID because my niece decided that she wanted to go hang out with people. That was during COVID time. She just had a kidney transplant. So here we go. I'm trying to go help my mother. This woman told me I'm messing up her money because I decided to go help my mama. And she told me I got other family members that can handle that. When I told her, yo, I've always been there for my mama. I'll drop everything to be there for my mama. This is what we do. We don't second guess about our loved ones. If you say mama, everybody dropping what they got to do. I don't know about you people, but I know about us people. So
Well, let me interrupt you right there. In that particular statement, do you believe that you unfairly categorized her based on what she looks like?
I don't care about what she looks like. I care about who
No, no,
she
no,
is
no,
as
no,
a
no, no, no.
person in her culture, in her. She
Hold on,
could
hold
have
on.
been mixed with. Listen, hold up.
Okay.
I asked her, watch this. I even asked her background.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her because I know that my own mixed sisters, you would think they're white.
Okay.
I know how much stuff we got up in us as a family
Mm-hmm.
culturally. And she says, "Well, I'm kind of white." I said, "No, girl, you got more up in you than that." She said, "Oh yeah, I'm Mediterranean background and all this stuff." I said, "Exactly." I said,
Yeah,
"I don't have
that's
no issues dealing with you, but here's the thing." I said, "How much do you know about the African American culture? How much do you know about how we deal with things religiously, household wise? on all levels. Do you know anything about us? She said, no, but everybody goes through stuff. And I'm saying, no, I know everybody goes through stuff, but we go through stuff in a whole different way because of suppression from generations. The way we handle things is because of our traumas and our backgrounds and over generations, how we were brought up and all these different things. There's too many things that we have to deal with that they never had to deal with. So there's things that I have to talk about that I'm dealing with when it comes down to racism that
Mhm,
I'm not talking to this one about. I
mhm.
don't want to. And you can't make me sit there because you feel like just because we're on the same level, on one level, you're going to want to pick my brain to see where things are going to go. And you telling me you're going to try to keep me because you feel like, we can see where things. No, we're not. We're not.
Well, it's
You're not going to learn nothing from me here.
well let me ask this question. I'm a novice when it comes to your profession, but is that one of a counselor's jobs?
Well, for me, when I look at it, I- like as far as in my day to day duties, there's you just have to be who you are. And uh, granted, you see color, but I have to be who I am, no matter if it's a white boy, white girl, Asian, whoever the case is. And once they realize that's Mr. Glover, and they get comfortable with you, it
Right,
doesn't matter,
right.
long as you're giving them the being an effective listener, being giving them the basic skills, really trying to validate what's going on with them. Then it's all good. They don't. But you have to be consistent in what you do. So stuff like that. I
We're
mean, my
talking about her, but David, we're talking about her wanting to stick to me as a counselor. She wanted to be my counselor. That's not what I want. That's not what I want.
But hold on, let me interrupt you for just a moment because I need to make this particular point. David's saying you have to be consistent. It's hard for an individual to be consistent when they're being shut out. I understand you have every right as a patient to be counseled in the way that you want, but do you think being counseled in the way you want could be counterproductive? You're saying you don't want somebody that's not spiritual, and it could be the spirituality that's keeping you where you are. But in order for you to understand that, you have to walk through a different door, and she may have been that door. And you can't ask for change and then continue the same thing. And the reason why I say that is this: when I was in foster care, all I had were Caucasian women as caseworkers. I had this one, and I'll never forget her. She was magnificent, and I didn't realize it at the time. Her name was Carolyn Rotella Johnson. Never forget that woman's name. When me and my younger brother would be in place, which was often, the first thing that she would ask us is, do we want to be with a black family or a white family? How do you think she got to understand that cultural sensitivity?
I get that, but you have to understand something. Like I said, you brought up the spirituality thing, right? Because
No, no, no.
that's
You brought that
no,
up.
no, no, no. I'm saying I'm going to touch that.
Oh,
You
but you
brought that
brought it
up.
up. I just want to make sure. I didn't bring it up.
Right,
That's something that you mentioned.
right. I know I spoke
Okay.
on it, but what I want to expound on that part. A lot of them. Here's the thing. You know how we view church as black people when it comes down to just not everybody though, but I know that not everybody goes to church, but I'm saying as a person that was brought up in that way, there's certain things that your family sticks to, certain things that you kind of that's a norm for that cultural, religious culture, right?
Mhm,
That certain ones don't take as anything. When decisions are made in your home growing up,
mhm.
it comes from all of that, your spiritual raising and how your family felt, your parents as in how they felt growing up spiritually, if their household was strict, if it wasn't strict, things that everyone in this generation had to go through and how we were raised. We have family members, grandparents, mothers who we had to learn from their ways. Whoever didn't have whatever family members who went to church or whatever they did, however their standards and their morals were, that's what you grew up under.
Hmm.
It don't change for me when it comes down to what I want to deal with.
Hmm.
I know that a person may not have to be spiritual in that manner, but Black people have a way of raising their children, whether or not they're in church. Somebody else was in church, but they have a way of raising their kids. They're going to instill things in them that other cultures don't instill, right? And then when
Hmm.
you have to bring up some subjects that they can't comprehend, that's an issue for me
Hmm.
because it's been brought to me by that same woman that told me about messing up her money, right? And
Hmm.
so when they start divulging things to me about, okay, well, I don't see why it's like that with y'all. She didn't say y'all. She said with the Black families because we don't look at things that way. And I'm saying, well, what the hell? Who am I talking to? I don't need this because I want somebody to tell me, well, I don't know. I don't see why that's important in y'all culture or y'all, Black makeup. I don't get that. So when I have to go through stuff, I don't need that. I want somebody who can flow with me and understand where I'm coming from. So even if they're not religious, they get it as a Black person. And
But
that's what I need to sustain with me because I know what I'm going to be talking about. It ain't no frivolous stuff. It ain't no. Listen, we have all been traumatized through different cultural stuff.
Mhm.
So we all have work to do on ourselves. And
Mhm.
I want somebody Black to deal with that with me.
So on the opposite end, you can have somebody black, but what if they um, fake religious, ghetto as hell, and kind of really not attentive to what you're saying because they're forcing they have all the answers and they're not an effective listener or communicator. So it's kind of hard to have the perfect matchup in
Not really.
situations like that. I
Not
barely said.
really. Here's the thing. You just have to find the right fit. And normally that's
It
why I
ain't.
don't say if I move it along, it's because they've shown themselves. The other person that was Caucasian, I didn't have a problem with that. But when I started hitting the things that I had issues with, right? Because the trauma that I was dealing with, I had issues with. I was mad at God for a minute. Okay. I was mad at God. Like, how do you allow for somebody to go through just coming off of a fast and then two people try to take their lives while they're doing good, something good on the street? Two people tried during the George Foreman time. Listen, I was pissed at God because that caused me damage. So that I was going through that. So you see what I'm saying? I needed to talk to some. So it didn't matter if she was right.
So
It mattered. It mattered with certain issues that she felt like Black people shouldn't have an issue with. And remember, it was around, like I said, the George Floyd time. So it was after that, but it was still hot. And regardless of what, this woman didn't regard it as much. So that means you don't regard what happened to me, happened to George Floyd practically. He's dead though, but I'm still here. And yet you're sitting here trying to want me to minimize that and don't look at it in the Black sense. Really? Lady, we can't talk no more.
See,
And then when the money thing came up, and then when she's trying to tell me, well, you know, you shouldn't really put things on God because that's why people don't really believe in God. I got to go. I was done then. Everything was making me done that day. It was a whole, listen, it was a rollout of I see who you are. I see who you are. Okay, we're done. And I didn't even say nothing to her. I asked, and then she's asking me, am I reimbursing her for the day she made me? She's telling me, oh, you can't be at Walmart. I said, I'll go in the car. Oh, no, 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 we still can't have nothing. We can't have this because I don't want you sitting in the car. And I'm thinking, you have me by your, what are you talking about? Oh, no, you're gonna have to pay for this. What she told me next. Oh, you're gonna have to pay for that.
Throw that whole
I'm
agency
thinking
away. It sounded like it was trash. Throw the whole thing away. It seemed like
that's
the
the whole
whole thing was
exactly.
I
trash.
was
That's
I
what.
was curious.
Yeah.
Um, how
And
do
she
you?
was private, so she wasn't with an agency. She was
Okay,
private.
okay. How was he recommended to you?
She was recommended to me through my attorney with the case because she felt like she dealt with a lot of stuff like traumas within people getting attacked and different things, and so she just thought this lady would be a good person to deal with. But it was like
Right. They
it
set you up.
floored me.
They
It
set you up.
exactly,
They set you
See,
up.
the
and,
first
and
the
Go ahead,
first
Jay.
mistake in all that is everybody's unique and different.
Right.
Just because you dealt with certain people with certain kind of trauma, don't mean you're going to be the expert with the next person.
Right.
So when people say, "Oh, I'm an expert in this," it's just cap because you
yeah,
don't know. You don't know how people respond. People could have the same situation happen to them, but they respond differently.
yeah,
So you just got to be somebody's open and free and like I said, be effective listener, be empathetic, uh, know the right questions and know the right things to say at that time. But it has to come from within, like your heart. But all these people that are like, oh, I'm an expert at dealing with this or expert at dealing with that. Just building up their resume, padding the resume, and all that stuff, whatever. Like
Mhm.
people always say, "Oh, counselors need counseling." David, you might need to go to counseling. I said, "I'll break down the damn counselor. I turn around and control the session, control
And it's
it.
funny you say that.
Had him crying.
Yeah,
Like,
it's funny you say that though, because I got two stories. One comes from the mouth of basketball legend Kenny Smith, two-time NBA champion from the Houston Rockets, and he talks about a practice with the legendary North Carolina coach Dean Smith. I don't think Dean Smith needs any introduction for college basketball fans. For those who don't know about Dean Smith, just look him up. They have a player from Africa, and I don't remember what continent, and he's messing up, and they're getting on him, and they're riding on him. They're riding on him, Dean and another assistant coach. They got him so bad that they kicked him out of practice. One practice. Dean Smith goes over to the young man. I think his name was Mokhtar Anjai. And he's speaking to him. And he's looking down. And coach is saying, hey, look me in the eye. Look me in the eye when you talk to me. And he looks up to Dean Smith. He said, I can't do that. He said, because of my culture, to look an adult in the eye is disrespectful.
exactly. That's how I was raised.
Hold on. So what Dean Smith did was he pulled out one of his assistant coaches and sent him to Africa, unbeknown to the player. That player's mother calls him up and asks, what's going on over there? She said, there's a coach here that I don't know. I know Dean Smith, but I don't know this coach. And he said, he's here to learn about our culture. That's the grace that we have to give people. And that's the grace that we have to extend to people. We have to realize that for as much as we think we know a lot of things, there's more things that we don't know. And in order to actually get an understanding, we have to be willing to walk through a door. But that door also has to be open. Far too often, when somebody wants to come in our house, we don't let them in. And then we wonder why they never learn. Education is a two-way street. I don't care where you go, who you are, what you do. I can seek information all day, every day, from anybody. But if you lock this book and you don't give me the key, don't expect me to learn what's inside of this book. And too often as Black folks, that's what we do. We will give somebody a book, but we'll lock the key and tell them, fuck you, learn the best way you can. And then when they don't learn and they stick to the stereotypes that they do, we want to blame them. And that's some bullshit that needs to stop.
Yeah. We got crickets on the panel.
I had another story, but I can't remember.
That was a mic drop.
I had another story, but I'm sorry, I wrote it down. That's why I write things down. There's a black female therapist, and I'm sure you probably remember this, Dave, on TikTok, berating black men, berating black men to the point that she got fired from her job. Now, how as black men are we supposed to trust a person who's supposed to help us when she's denigrating us? And then we wonder why black men don't seek therapy from their black sister. Who can a black man trust if he can't trust the person that's supposed to be down for him, down with him? These, like I said, it's the old adage, all my skin folk ain't my kinfolk. We have to do a deep dive into who people are on an individual level before we start castigating people based on what they look like, their culture, where they come from, and what they don't believe in. Because as they say in battle, ain't no atheists in foxholes.
Well,
We
to
had
each his own though on that one, because when it comes down to counseling, to each his own.
Well,
but
Jackie,
go ahead, Dave.
for that, like if somebody started asking, like, what's your religions? What are you going to do with that information? That has nothing to do with what we got going on here. So not everybody's going to be open to share that information. Like where you
Well,
going?
well,
I know where you were going with it because you wanted
okay.
somebody with the common religious background, but I don't think you get to have a buffet or handpick
No. Okay, so
individuals
here's
like
what
that.
you guys missed. Here's what you guys missed. Because I see why you guys keep hitting that part. Listen, you missed the part where I said that after she said she didn't have one, the stuff on her walls showed that she was a Wiccan. She is a witch. That's why she said she doesn't have a religion. Okay? I'm not counseling with anyone who is a witch or a Wiccan. I'm sorry.
We'll see.
So I think y'all missed that.
No, well, see, for me, I don't know. Only witch I know is Bewitched. So,
Well,
so I don't
well,
even
here's
know.
the thing. Here's
Yeah.
the thing. Once I saw the pictures of the pentagram and all the stuff on her wall, which shouldn't be exposed. If you don't want people to know your business and know your background and that stuff, don't put things on your wall that exposes things like that.
Shouldn't have that
So
up there.
exactly. There was more stuff than just that. So it was a flow of things. So this is why I said to you guys, I'm not doing that. If they don't have any type of religious background and it's of God, I can't do that. I can't deal with somebody who's a witch and who's on the dark side. I'm not
Yeah,
counseling with them.
nope, nope, not
I'm
me
not
neither.
doing that. They cannot speak into my life in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I said when she tried to keep me, I was persistent. That's not going to happen. And when I spoke to the last person that took my call and I told them about the stuff on her wall, and they said, yeah, I understand what you mean. You don't need to be dealing with that. Because the lady was white herself. And she was like, girl, you don't need that either. Because she knows what's on the woman in that woman's office. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I told her I don't need that. That's why I specifically asked her for somebody blind, and I just wanted to get away from her. And I wanted somebody with some kind of God, but I don't want a witch talking in my life, and I don't want a Wiccan talking into me at all. We don't have conversations. What light have to do with darkness? Nothing. I don't want that. I'm sorry. I'm
Well, actually,
adamant.
they
So
balance each
we
other
can be
out.
done. Pardon?
Light and dark balance each other out.
You don't
Without
understand what I mean. It's
no, no,
not,
no.
it's not.
I do. I
Listen,
trust
I'm
me. I
talking
do.
religiously. I'm not talking about what you're talking about.
I
So,
do. You're
okay.
not giving me the credit because you now see this is what we call talking above people.
No, I stopped talking so you can
No,
explain
no, no,
because
no, no,
I
no, no.
want you to
Hold on,
explain.
hold on. You're talking above me because I'm not a religious person, so you don't think I understand. When I say
I
light
don't
and
know
dark,
what you are religiously. You never
hold on,
expressed
hold
that.
on, hold on. I said because you think I don't understand. I'm not saying you know. Without light, without light, what is there? What is there in the absence of?
Darkness.
So without darkness, what is there light? What is there in the absence of?
I hear you and I understood when you said it. That's why I said I get you. That's why I stopped talking.
That's all I'm saying. We keep acting as if we're an entity unknown to other people. When I say an entity, I'm speaking of the individual. So in order for an individual to treat us, they have to be of a like mind. And that is the most dangerous thing that a human can fall into. Case in point, there was a clip of a, I don't know if it's an ongoing series or whatever it is on Hulu, starring Malcolm Jamal Warner. He plays a doctor, and there's another young doctor coming in with him. They get pulled over by police, and they're in a classic Mercedes. They get pulled over. Officer has them at gunpoint. Now the guy turns around and he's talking to the officer, and the officer takes a step back into traffic and gets hit. Malcolm Jamal's character, who's a surgeon, starts administering medical treatment right there. They wheel him into the ER, and they're talking about what he needs. They prep for surgery, save the officer's life. And the guy says to him, he says, "Oh, you think you're some type of saint because you saved this man's life? You think he's going to treat you differently?" And Malcolm Jamal's character turned around and said, "I didn't save his life because of him. I saved his life because that's the type of person I am." So ultimately, what we have to start doing when we're seeking assistance from anyone is we have to start looking internally into ourselves and saying, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? And who can I get it from? Because I assure you that if you go into an emergency room and there's a doctor with swastikas tattooed all on him and things of this nature, but he's the only one that can save your life, you're not going to object because you're not going to be in a position to. The only reason you can do this now is because you're in the position to. And I understand that, and you have every right. I would never take the right from somebody that they have that's been bestowed upon them by the creator. But that's what we have to understand. Sometimes we have to take a step back to get forward.
See, I think like it's hard to and you may have a choice and an option, but it's kind of hard to handpick certain things. Or every day we're faced with that. Children are faced with that. They can't really handpick teachers. They come and tell me, "Oh, this teacher don't like black kids," or this or that. But it's kind of hard to. If we could do that, and if we was in a utopian society, everything would be perfect. But it's kind of hard. And maybe Jackie, you could had control of that situation. But I'm thinking on a broader perspective, bigger than you. That a lot of times we don't have that control to be able to hand pick what we want. So sometimes we just have to deal with certain things. So and to teach us resolve, resiliency, and things of that nature, because everything ain't gonna come easy in this world.
Yeah.
It's hard out here.
Yeah,
God would-
I do understand that to the fullest, but I do also realize that regardless of what in this life, when we do have choices over certain things, then I'm going to, you know, exercise my right to certain things, and I'm going to stand on that. So some people are okay with certain things, and that's fine, but not everything flows for everybody. And I know who I am, and I know the type of situations that I'm not going to allow in my life. So that's it. You know,
like I said, you should. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. Everybody should be comfortable with who is treating them, whether the treatment is mental health or physical health. I don't want to be with a doctor that I don't feel comfortable with, because then you're talking about a different level of treatment. You're starting to speak holistically, and science evidence has shown that the treatment of an individual spiritually has a huge impact on what happens with them physically. So I would never begrudge anybody that. Absolutely, whoever's treating you, be comfortable with it. You have that right, and that's why I say exercise that right. Absolutely.
definitely. And I do know people who have been in my life for years who, you know, don't believe in God, and they're atheists and all that. I don't have any problem with that. You know, it's not a religious thing where, oh, they got to be spiritual or religious to for me to know them.
Yeah.
I've met too many people in my life, and we've been friends or acquaintances for years. It does I don't stop that, but I do have a problem with when it comes down to stuff like counseling.
Hmm.
That's a choice that I
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah.
Okay, I can befriend anybody and have conversation, whatever, and hang out and just know these people, and that's fine. And they're from all walks of life. I don't have any issues with that. All I know is for certain things, I got to keep my corner. You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely. Stand for what you believe in, though. Absolutely. I'll tell people all day, every day. That's what makes you you. That's what makes a person valuable. You know where the principles are. You know where they lie, and you don't have to ever question them. That's an invaluable trait that is lost on a lot of people. Some people go with the wind. You say, "Well, you said this one day, and now you're doing this day. I don't know who you are, so therefore I can't trust you."
And, and when I look at it, even when you talk about getting help, I've been going through physical therapy. Originally, I had shoulder issues, elbow issues, back, little lower back issues, but I've been going. When I first went, I had this young Caucasian female that was doing it, and it was it's funny because when I first went there, I wasn't really saying much, whatever, just telling her what's going on. She was taking me through the treatment, but now it's kind of like we just be dialoguing, and she kind of understood. Well, one of the things is she found out what made me tick,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so she knows, like, okay, let me strike up a conversation. What's up, David? What's going on with the kids at the school, and different conversations. So then we just talk, and then she, self disclose some of her stuff. So it's just like a free going conversation, because I would have never thought, like, I would have kind of opened up and talked, but then I realized she's helping me with something, like, because no matter what, if you're going through pains, that's stress,
Hmm.
and that's aggravation and the wear and tear. So actually, it, everything has been good. It's been good, but I think because I opened up my mind to just be free when I'm there, that it had helped me out. If I'd have went there, stiff as I am, even stiffer, went there, shit, I would have still been struggling. I would have still been struggling. So sometimes we just gotta say, hey, and I'm not saying in this your case, Jackie. I'm saying for other people who, you might not a witch doctor, witchcraft person, but it
Yeah.
might be somebody that don't look like you, or whatever the case is, and you don't even get into religious stuff, but you just say they're white, I'm black, I want
Hmm.
a black physical therapist, I want this or that. Eh, Sometimes you just got to open up yourself and say, I'm just gonna see what happens. I'm gonna see what,
but
as long as it
And
ain't
that is
just
what I
deadly.
and
do,
Jack with
and that is
that,
what
it
I do.
it might just be her experience, because I know for me, there's something wrong with me. If you are not Middle Eastern, I don't want you. I don't. I don't care. And I don't care what anybody says. Support black people in medicine. Yes, I'm one of them. And I hope to be one of them with my own practice. But in my experience, those Middle Eastern doctors, they'll test you for anything and everything you asked for, didn't ask for, and they pay attention and they're more thorough. In my experience,
you know what?
anytime that somebody has caught something somebody else didn't get or catch on to, or anybody that said, hey, I want to try this, or hey, let's do this, it's always been a Middle Eastern of Indian descent doctor. So that's my safe place.
But watch this. Remember our conversation about my grandmother, and we were talking about my mother, all of this stuff. My mother's doctor took her on, and he's Middle Eastern, and he is definitely taking care of my grandmother now.
Yeah.
And
So,
everything that they was trying to tell her, oh, she's not doing good, she's not. He's like, we're gonna turn this around, and he's doing everything now that they never did.
And
Mhm.
my limited experiences, with the medical profession, when my mother was uh, recovering from cancer, she had to go back to the ER because she had a blockage. Um, Gentleman he was her doctor. He was treating her at the time, and when he was walking through the ER looking at X-rays, he picked it out immediately and said, "This is what's going on." Got her admitted and got the issue resolved within like 48 hours. And he said, I was walking through the ER and I recognized the name. And then I saw the x ray. And then he said, he saw what was going on. He said, well, she doesn't need to be in the ER. She needs to be admitted and this procedure needs to be done. And man, clockwork, it happened. So I, I am in no position to rebut what either one of the women have said. And I don't know, maybe it's the fact that their culture pushes education in particular practices. So STEM, medical. I mean, if you go to the University of Buffalo, that's predominantly who's in those disciplines, if you will. And it's not by mistake either.
And my mom first had a Jamaican doctor because everybody want to stay within their culture kind of thing. And I took my grandmother to that same Jamaican doctor, and I told my mom even after she left that same Jamaican doctor, I went to this great man. I'm telling you, this doctor has helped my mother tremendously. Anyway, the one that took on my grandmother, and it's crazy. I told my mother, let me just take her to this man, to your doctor, and this same Jamaican doctor skipped the fact that she walked in there with pneumonia. Skip the fact she walked up in there with all this stuff going on. Same grandmother that went into the hospital for pneumonia and a UTI, and this doctor never caught it, never did nothing about it. And even when we asked him to go up to the hospital to like see her or talk to the hospital doctors that's taking care of her, anybody to call him back and talk to him about what's going on with her, he literally did not do any of it. By the time I called him, which was over a week ago, and I went off on him because that's what I do when he doesn't do right. And I told him, I said, this is why none of our family members is with you anymore because
Ooh,
you don't address people's issues. You don't go to the hospitals. You ignore your patients and you make them feel like you do not exist. The hospital don't even realize that they even have a doctor because you don't even check in on your patient. And my grandmother been in the hospital for 3 months and you haven't gone there. You haven't called. You haven't checked in. What kind of person are you? And regardless of that, like I told them, you will never keep having people stay with you because you're a horrible doctor. And you're a black person that you used to have some skills of attentiveness to your patient. You don't anymore. You don't care about 3 hours waiting for you. I don't go to nowhere. I got to wait 3 hours to see nobody. And between all of just the complaints and just all of the stuff, he never ever thought about going to see his patient or even calling the hospital. And even when my mother, in tears, begging him to just go check on her mother, you mean to tell me you would act like it doesn't matter? Then everyone is calling you. Even her daughter, that's not even in this country, calling you. And you don't even act like the patient matters, and you're the last person to see her. And then a couple of days later, what happens? She's in a hospital. Pneumonia. We brought her there because she wasn't well, and you didn't do nothing. And she's complaining, "Oh, my head is tight. My head is tight." That's all she kept saying. We're saying, "Okay, something's going on." So it's like, okay, got to get her in the doctor immediately. All the while, builds up to everything, not realizing a woman walking around with pneumonia,
yeah.
and it's
It
like you don't care. So I'm like, I'm glad who she's with now. My mother doctor that my mom has who cares about people and will definitely find the problem and make sure they go a healthy route first before they start, stuffing them with meds.
Yeah,
So I'm
and
grateful.
it seems like from what I'm hearing and it's not just with your grandmother. I'm sorry, your mother. It seems like a lot of medical professionals aren't treating people; they're treating symptoms, and I don't know if it's because they receive some money back from pharmaceutical companies for the amount of prescription drugs or painkillers or things of that nature that they prescribe. And if that's the case, then the medical system needs an overhaul.
No, it's so science and practice, very important words. Science and practice. I'm practicing medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't everything is based on studies.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just like you said, a lot of times you get a healthcare professional that's treating symptoms and not that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens just like in every other field and profession when people get complacent. And um I don't think that is not necessarily, to me, that's not a race thing. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to be any certain kind of race to be complacent in your job or your profession that you do every day.
Okay.
I just find it that for me, I think Middle Eastern doctors are just, I don't know, they have seen more. They've seen more. A lot of them don't go to medical school in the US. A lot of them have started their journeys in third world countries, so they're always going to think outside of the box and outside of the norm. And that's kind of what pushes them forward. I also like the old doctors, and when I say old, I mean old. I mean wear suspenders and the slacks, and they should have been retired like 10 to 20 years ago. Those doctors I go to too, whether they black, white, or anything, because of course they've been in practice for years. I've had a set of those doctors. One told me, when I was my son first started getting into his picky eating phase, one said, "Let's give him some vitamins. He'll be fine. He's not going to starve himself." The other doctor said, "He's not going to starve himself. He eats what you give him for dinner, or he doesn't, and it's
Oh,
always that balance." That's
oh,
the doctor.
geez.
Yeah, the doctor say he's not going to starve himself. So basically, he eats what you give him for dinner, or he doesn't.
Like a OG.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then when they see something new, when I say they flip out this old encyclopedia looking kind of book, that's when I know you the real deal. When you have that medical dictionary in your office,
Yeah.
and not the sit down office, I mean in the exam room,
Hmm.
you have that in there, I know you the real deal.
Well, because they're researching on the spot, I would assume. It's no
Mm-hmm.
different. It's no different than you going to a lawyer's office and they have a collection of books with case law in there. That's what you want to
Right.
see because it lets
Right.
you know that they're up on what the latest practices are in regards to whatever it is that they're treating somebody. Because just like you said, we know with studies and I was gonna call him Dr. Sir Tice. So Tice just myth and methodology. That's what it is ultimately. Is
Mm-hmm.
what are we going to use to treat this? Because this may have changed. We always know they're adding to what is it the the mental health dictionary starts up with is it MDS or whatever it is
DSM.
DSM.
the DSM. That's been expanded and expanded and expanded from what originally was.
You're watching
Mm.
TNT.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
Let
all of
me
this
turn
stuff
this off.
it has a place. So Tice, I sent you the link if you want to come up. Check your inbox. So all of this stuff has a place in our society at large. We just really don't think about it because most of us for most of us for lack of understanding, we simply don't know. This is why I always push people you know, to step out in the world that you're unfamiliar with. Because I'm on a lot of these posts, videos with law enforcement interactions. And what I'm starting to realize is people just don't know how the court system functions. They don't know how laws are enforced. They just don't know. So when I say something, they call me a TikTok lawyer. I say, no, I'm not a TikTok lawyer. I said, I understand certain things about the law enforcement agency. One, because I study it. Two, because I have friends that are police officers. I have family members that are police officers. And I also have access to attorneys who I run things by occasionally. And they tell me, well, this is where you got this wrong. This is right. And this is what happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when somebody who's informed is speaking to somebody who's uninformed, they think you an asshole. They think you arrogant. Well, you think you know this, you think you know that. That's not that I know. As I'm telling you what's done, what has been done, and what continues to be done. In the medical profession, that changes, but rarely in law do things change. That's why it's important for doctors, as my older brother would say, continual professional development. What's procedure now might change in 4 or 5 years. I know when I had my colonoscopy last year, what they did was different than what I had a decade ago. So it changes. You want somebody that's up on the latest things. Now, whether it's effective or not is a different story, but you still want them to know.
Well, the one thing when you said about law, when I was taking political science in college, and they were saying most people don't know the law,
Yeah.
so that's why people, police officers and whatever, could get away with what they want to. Like they really, when they pull you over, they're not supposed to say, "Oh, pop your trunk,"
Right.
whatever. Then that's a warrant. They need to have a search warrant,
Right.
even though it's a part of the car. But they, whatever it is, whoever wrote that, they just can't automatically have you pop that open or whatever the case, unless they have a warrant. And it was just different examples like that. And they always would say when I was in the class, like, understand and know the law, understand and know the law. And most people don't know the law. Same thing in school. They got school laws. People don't understand it. People don't understand it. So people, if somebody knows you don't understand it,
You
they'll
take
try to
advantage
get away with it and say they don't know. They don't know what's going on. That's why you have certain schools that uh, that has limited parent participation, lower socioeconomic status. They can pull whatever because
Mhm.
they know that the parents are not knowledgeable and not going to take the time to understand it. So they'll tell them whatever. Oh, your kid need to stay. Your kid can't come back to school for the rest of the year, and it's February or
I,
something like that.
you know what is
And
funny? Go ahead. I'm sorry to have me interrupt you.
what'd you say?
I was going to say, you know what's funny about that is years ago I sat in on a disciplinary hearing for a student. What Hey, after dark, um, after listening to what the principal or the I think it was the principal at the time was saying, we turned around and said, "Hey, look, this is what you need to do to get back in school," because he was sent to in Niagara Falls. They have a school where people who are termed as disciplinary problem students go. Now, they weren't disciplining him because of what happened. A female student had spat on him and he retaliated physically. They sent him there because he was underperforming academically. So I made sure that first and foremost, he got his grades back on track because he thought he was going to be there the rest of the year. And this was like May or some March or May. Once he got his grades back on track, they couldn't mess with him in terms of what happened because what they did was they essentially set him up to be abused by a female student on the basis of gender. That's illegal in the school district. You can't do that. But what they did was they circumvented that by saying he's a problem student because he's underperforming. So a lot of people, parents included, need to understand how school districts will handle somebody that they want to label as a problem child when that child is not a problem.
Yeah, it's simple school law, and parents sometimes they don't get it. So, and and the thing about it, if you're school personnel, you know certain parents, so you know like, oh, we're going to tell them this, so we're going to get them out of the school, or whatever the case is. So you have to know your position and know the law. In some cases, some of the kids probably better off not being there because we know they're going to end up in deeper trouble. But I guess we're just saying like you got to know whatever area you're dealing with, you got to kind of have some background knowledge of it. So we had Sir Tyson Nita. Thanks for joining us. How y'all doing?
Good evening.
There may be some noise where I'm at. Tell me how does it sound, or can you guys hear me fine?
Yeah.
We hear you.
Okay, that's good. I'll let Nita go before I do. I don't really have a point right now.
I don't have any points because I just got on. I was doing some homework, research, papers. Now I'm just taking a break.
Well,
So here,
we ooh,
I was going to say, here's my question: how did you guys get to talking to doctors about doctors based off the topic title? I'm trying to draw that connection. I wasn't actually joking, but I was, I'm curious. Like, where
no,
did the conversation
what
evolve
it
from?
what it segued from was Jackie was getting counseled, and she was saying that the individual who was counseling her didn't have a religious base, and that she was a Wiccan, and she didn't want to be treated by that. So that kind of led into us talking about treatments from doctors. So that's how it branched into that particular discussion.
It's funny that she says that. I don't think I've ever met her. So, good evening to you. How you doing? Hey, Shaughnessy, how you doing? Um, I'm now becoming
Hey.
of the belief. Yeah, I'm becoming of the belief that I don't want to be around all these atheist type people, or either. I know I've never been a non-believer, but I'm of the belief now, and I know this is going to be controversial, that the reason why society has become the way it is that many people have no values, have no soul. Because we call it in the manosphere the hate God sector or whatever, Okay, and the further that we've gotten away from our belief system, the more I mean, when I say we, I mean us as in modern Western society, the more we just don't care. It's very callous out here. There used to be times even criminals had things like a code or what
Right.
have you. There used to be, I forget what it was called, but basically on Sundays, you couldn't do anything, you guys know what I'm saying. You couldn't really do anything negative or what have you because there was that type of truce that was accepted. Now, there's no rules to the game, and this is why we have so much lawlessness. And I think right now it's time for people to really step up. Listen, I don't want to tell people that they have to believe the same thing that I have to believe. I'm not going there, but I am going to the fact that I've noticed a difference in society from when we openly expressed our beliefs to whereas now we're running away from them. Let me
Yeah.
say it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I,
now to be a medical, let me say this. I can see where she made the tie-in with the medicine because a lot of that stuff. Listen, I've seen the power of prayer. Okay, I've seen it with my own eyes or whatever. Now, whether that was just belief, hocus pocus, once you roll seven, whatever. I've seen it where the doctors have said, "Hey, we got to pull the plug," and it's like, no, we had to get in the prayer circle and really do it. And I've seen relevance come from that. So I am a believer. I don't think that everything, as much as I am for the logic-based thinking, I do think that belief plays a part into it.
Okay, so I'll jump in and add so that you can be you'll get more information. The thing is, I was talking about a counselor, right? So that's my big issue. I don't want a counselor that is a Wiccan. I'm not dealing with no witches. I'm sorry. They
Think
let
you
them
got
stay
two
in their
devices
lane. I'm
on?
over here.
How
no, I
did
think
you
that's
find out
just
that this?
Ice
How
mic
did
is
so,
open.
so,
That's all.
no, my mic was on mute, so it's not my background. But
Oh,
yeah, no, I follow the rules. So I still hear the background myself, but how did you find out that this person was wicked? And that to me is on some demonic thing. I definitely wouldn't want to be confessing any damn thoughts, where I would need a counselor to somebody who's on that. That's just me personally.
Okay, so the backstory is I went to the office to actually they did the intake. So upon going into this office, I didn't really pay attention to anything. I just was paying attention to her and I asked her some questions about herself because my background is in mental health counseling as well. So we were just relating on the fact that I'm going to deal with or bring up some things that is going to be important to me. So I just need to make sure. Now she's only doing the intake. Now she didn't understand that there was black issues and spiritual background issues that I need to address. And I told her I wanted someone black because that was another question. What type of person you prefer? I told her I wanted someone black and someone with some kind of spiritual background that I can just address things with. Anyway, she felt like she's going to keep me. I ended up in her conversation at that time because she felt like, oh, I think we should spend a little bit more time together. I ended up looking up on the wall. And when I looked up on the wall, my brain just like totally was in awe. I was in shock. My eyes was bulged out of my head because now I'm looking around the wall. I'm seeing all these pictures and these pictures of pentagrams and all this witchcraft stuff. So now I had to ask her. I said, so what's your spiritual background? What are you saying? So she says she don't have a religion. And then I look back at the stuff and I say, oh, she don't have one. She's a Wiccan. So then we went into the conversation. She was like, yeah, whatever. So then she asked me what made me ask her, because she didn't realize that I recognized all this stuff. So I said, well, why do you have this stuff on your wall if you don't want people to know who you are? She said, oh, I didn't know that you understood it. I said, I understood it very well. I said, but anywho, it led into I'm not going back there. Okay. If I have to have her, I'm not going back there. So I called the place and told them, listen, I want someone who's African American. And even though the lady kept giving me excuses like, oh, I don't sure she does not have her calendar, so she wasn't sure if she had space or not, or if she was willing to take me or not. So now she's giving me all this stuff. So I'm like, I need you to find out for me. So before the appointment came, I end up calling to find out. So the young lady I first spoke with, she was like, okay, well, I understand. Well, I'll get that young lady to call you, the black young lady, to set up an appointment. Nothing happened within that 2 days that they said it will take up to. So now it's the day of the appointment. No, the day before the appointment. So I call up there to find out why I haven't heard anything. So I'm talking to someone else now. So then I explained to the person on the phone my concerns. The lady, which is a receptionist, she said, I understand because I know what's in her office. And I understand if you don't want to go there because you don't have to be uncomfortable. I
But let me ask
said,
you this, if you don't mind. I don't mean to jump in, but okay, I get the general gist. Okay, I would be stunned if I saw a pentagram also, but where I'm having trouble understanding is how is it so difficult for you? I mean, what you're not for? I don't mean you individually, but you're the one who can choose your provider, right? Like, why is
mm-hmm.
this why is this like you got to go through a million different hurdles? The bitch had a pentagram. Fucking, I'm keeping it 100. Yeah, the bitch had a pentagram in there. I'm not fucking with that. Actually, I don't even want to be in this damn building. Okay, get me something else. I mean, to me, this is kind of cut and dry. But what it seems like they're giving a runaround, or are you just being nice about it? What's the deal?
And that was the thing. I felt like she wanted to keep me because she did mention that she wanted to just talk to me more. And I said to her, I do not want to talk to you when I have a choice to be with someone else. You're just doing the intake. You can't choose to want to keep me when I'm telling you, I don't want you. This is not what I want. And so when I called the day before to just make sure I was not seeing her, since no one called me back to tell me if this black girl was going to take me or not, they told me no, I'm still with this white girl. So I said, this young lady is a witch, and I went through the whole thing with the reception. She was like, girl, I know what's on her wall and blah blah blah, and you don't have to do all of that if you're uncomfortable.
But
So
I
I
think
said, and it's not just a small place, it's a big place that has a whole lot
Did
of offices
let,
with folks. So
did didn't
let me add
you
something.
get referred by the lawyer?
no, not this one. This was the this is now. That was, I told you I stopped talking to this other one talking about her money. I I messed up her money, so I don't want to hear that. So
Oh, oh, listen,
that was like 2 years ago now.
let me ask this. Then I'll say the point I was going to say or what have you, because I do have to bail. But appreciate that. But wouldn't your feelings be the same whether she was black, white, Hispanic, Hungarian, right? I mean,
Because here's the
you got.
thing,
No,
for
no, no.
me
I'm
as a
saying,
for
would you
me
would
as a
it be the same?
Jamaican black person, I like to deal with, after going through, okay, with being in counseling and all of that. I just know certain things that I can relate to with certain people. So when I am going to find someone, it's not it's not somebody that's going to be thrown at me. People may try to like make me feel comfortable enough, and I'll ask certain questions. And the questions that I'll ask will give me the answer whether I want to be with them. But right now, with my situation that happened 2 years ago, I have a problem with that. It's a black thing right now. Okay?
Okay, no, no, no.
And
No, no.
it's
I
a
think
But
you.
is
God
that
thing
not
right
I think you.
now.
I
is that
think.
not
I
racist?
think you was. Hold on, hold that thought, Charlie. See, I think you kind of missed the point I'm saying. I'm saying she had a MFN pentagram in her office as a professional. If she was black, I would think that your sentiments would be exactly the same. Or
Oh yes,
are you
it would
saying
have
that's what I
been
was?
that.
Okay,
That wasn't
that's
the issue. Listen, you, even though you missed the backstory, I had a George Floyd situation that happened to me. That was my situation for wanting to deal with a black counselor. After this white counselor made me feel like this situation was not important because of me being black and her being white. You understand me? Now y'all
see.
get the gist of that. So by that happening, I just said, screw this woman. I don't want to deal with somebody who's going to tell me about I'm messing with her money and trying to tell me how the situation happened, why the situation happened, me being black and the other party and all of that. It don't matter to her because it wasn't a sensitive issue for her because she wasn't black.
Okay, understood.
Understand?
No, no,
So,
understood.
skipping past all of that, I still want to deal with that issue, but I need to deal with a black person. Can y'all still follow me now?
Yes, I can. But you mind if I share something? And this ties into the topic of the show. And I acknowledge fully what you're saying, sister. So I get you. Okay, I'm gonna admit off the top, David, hold the alarms. People about to throw the darts at me when I say this. Okay.
Hey,
All
you
right.
know how we do.
Okay. All right. But I'm gonna first say this. I'm going to contradict myself here. Okay. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here. So I'm going to honestly admit that, okay? I'm not one of these people who don't see all sides of the equation. Okay, so let me first say this. I completely understand with certain issues why someone would want someone that they think identifies with them, whether that's by race, whether that's by their culture, whether whatever, right? I get it because we all think that the person who may look like us may have the same experience as us, right? Right? Get it, got it, good. Okay, now I'm going to also say this, and here's where I'm going to contradict myself. There are people out there who manipulate that, okay, for their own purposes. Sorry, I had to answer something to someone. But there are people, in other words, people who will hey, brother, yeah, I understand your thing or whatever. You need to mess with me or whatever, and all this. We see it all the time in the world of negotiations and stuff, where they play on those things. Sorry for that loud noise, guys. 1 second. I don't know what that is. Like I said, I'm out in the public right now. Hey, just go past. Okay, that noise just ended. All right. So I understand that. Oh shit. Again, guys, I can't control
You
that
on a
background
sailboat?
noise. No, no, no. I'm watching. I'm watching the game, and I have no
Yeah.
idea what that is. Uh, we had 25 inches of rain down here last week, so I had to get out the house and what have you. But anyways, back to this topic here, and it ties into the whole white topic and all this other stuff. Because and let me just weave it into there. I couldn't believe some of those responses I read because in 2023, I would like to think that we've all interacted outside of work with others who are different than us, and we have to recognize that we're in a more homogenous society now. Now, granted, I get it. Some people want to only strictly hang with their own group. But some of those questions, I know some of it was just jokingly, but some of those questions really sound like I'm like, do all you do is just go to work, interact with so-called white people, and then that's it? To whereas you're asking this ignorant shit, and you have nobody that you can actually ask that. And you're in. I would imagine, David, your demographic is above 30 on your group, 30 and above, or whatever, right? And
Yes, sir.
it's mind blowing to me how I mean, people were acting like it's 1955 where we're segregated and they don't know. Do white people still have tails or things like that? I mean, I'm exaggerating. And let me close out my point. Listen, I know this is like I said, this is gonna get me killed, but I stand on my beliefs. You're gonna need allies, regardless at what point in your life. You're gonna need allies in your career. You're gonna need allies whether it's a fight or not. So I'll use everybody's favorite example in slavery. Harriet Tubman didn't do that shit all by herself. Okay, she had fellow abolitionists or whatever it all is. And this isn't me kissing white man's ass and all this other dumb bullshit. What I'm saying is there are other people who have who there are people who can empathize with your plight.
Yes.
Okay? There are people who are willing to fight on that behalf. Like me, I don't like people getting taken advantage of, whether they're white, black, Puerto, right, white, black, Hispanic, or what have you. I don't like bullies. I don't care. I don't like Russell Westbrook, what he did this weekend. If y'all saw that, if y'all are sports fans or what have you, okay. I thought
I seen it.
I can't wait till he gets knocked out, and he wouldn't dare do that to anybody, that he didn't see was a threat, and he's a black man, right? So I just think that we have to get the reason that they constantly promote all this, race that is that they don't want us to be together. It's okay for us to have differences and differences of opinion, and we air it out, and then you be on your side, I'll be on my side. But now it's if you think different than me, now you're the enemy,
Right.
you're the oppressor. Ain't no white motherfucker oppresses me, god damn it. Okay, I'm saying that right now, whatever.
You know what? There's a lot that you did miss, even though it was covered. That I mean, I do have white in my family. I don't have any issues with none of that. And I have friends who are atheists, and I have people that I know who are atheists. I don't have an issue with that. I'm talking about when it comes down to the counseling aspect. I have people who are right in the profession who I'm cool with and been knowing for years. I don't that it's not that. I'm talking about the counseling aspect and the
No,
things that I want
See,
to discuss
un,
and what I'm looking for
no, under,
within those discussions
I
for
don't think
now.
anybody,
Yeah,
I don't think
all that
anybody
he's
puts a
saying is basically don't hold yourself back by saying, I only want a
no.
black therapist or a
Well,
black
I'm not.
doctor, thinking
Sean,
that
For this
somebody,
situation, I do.
Shaughnessy, that's technically, and I appreciate you jumping in, but I'll end on this. I'm not giving you pushback on that at all. Hell, I know plenty of women who want a OBGYN or whatever that's called or whatever that's of their same thing or whatever, or their same race. I get it. I'm saying I acknowledge it. I'm saying we have to, outside of those specific things, like case in point, okay, I'll admit this. I do not, okay, outside of a sports therapist, I don't want to go to a therapist that's not someone that I can somewhat relate to, you know, a smart, smart black guy thing, what have you. Again, I'm talking about on a personal level. Thank God I don't think I need therapy, so I don't have to find these guys. but but no, seriously. So I get it. I'm acknowledging. I use a very personal thing with ladies and OBGY, whatever those letters are, whatever, right? So I get it. I acknowledge that. But what I am saying is on just I was speaking, and I'll shut up after I say this. I was speaking on the topic that inspired this. It was some literal goofy ass, childish, teenage, juvenile bullshit that was posted. And I'm like, these are actual adults typing these comments? These are people that are approving loan applications, taking your health intake that think like this? Damn, we're doomed. I'm exaggerating, but
I've
okay.
been said that shit. So we've been doomed.
Somebody else can pick it up.
See, when I would look at it, when you start talking about religion, I don't think that should be discussed at the workplace and all of that stuff.
Totally agree.
Who you choose or whatever the case is, that is not open for discussion. So that's why I'm like, what is this place where you went to? Who referred you to this place? Because that's nothing that you get into, that type of conversation, religion, politics, and all that stuff. You're just dealing with your skill set and what you're there for, and if that person can do it. All that other stuff is just too much for me.
But what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on just in general when I say about you're ruining potential allies? Here, let me say this one more thing. So some of y'all might be familiar with Jason Whitlock. So I was at this event this weekend. I had to fly up to Nashville, and I'm doing this for selfish purposes, right? I'm not an openly religious guy, right? I mean, like I said, I do believe, but this event was more of a revival, and I actually enjoyed it. And again, I'm not an openly religious guy, and I was more disappointed that it was less than 20% brothers that was there. Okay. So you're telling me we're not religious anymore? Or guys didn't want to pay? Now, mind you, I'm meeting guys of all stripes, and it turned into a big network session. Oh, you do this? Oh, how was the rain down there? Oh, I'm in IT too. Take my number. I'm saying it to make a greater point. I think I don't mean we as black people, I mean we in general, because we stick with only our own tribes. Not everybody, obviously, but we kill so many potential opportunities just because, he wearing that Lakers jersey. Well, I get why somebody wouldn't want to wear a Lakers jersey.
Oh, don't talk about the Lakers. Don't talk about the Lakers.
All right. I can get why somebody, but he only wear this, man. F that dude. No, you can respect the fact that that Akron guy is a good basketball player, despite the fact I can't stand his ass or whatever. That's why I don't call him by name. No, you can respect. Hey, man, this person got some skills. And let me say this: there's a dude who, well, I already messed up. A person who ended up becoming a transgender, who actually changed my life. Now, this is before he, it, she, whatever you want to call him, was transitioning. He was like, man, you should try to do this in your career, whatever. And I'm in my head like, how does this guy know that I can do this? And I mean, that was like 15, 18 years ago. But what if I was closed-minded? And I'm not going to use the F word, Dave, and mess up your channel. But what if I said, man, that rainbow MFer can't tell me shit. He don't know my thing or whatever. But I listened to him. And again, I am completely against his lifestyle and definitely what he did to himself and what all is. But that's his life. I didn't say he couldn't do it, but and hell, let's just say this. He helped me make an extra $50,000 back then, okay, a year. So if we want to put money on it, okay, we just kill it because they all smell like, whatever the stereotype is that white people smell like, or they all smell like dogs and this, and I don't want to talk to them. Yeah, some may. Hell, but That's not everybody, and y'all might find out when y'all talking to people, y'all have more in common than
Yep.
you do differently. I'll
Mhm.
end on that.
Yeah. To what
Appreciate
you
your feedback.
to what
Go
you're
ahead,
saying,
Herb.
I listen to Jason Whitlock. I listen to his podcast consistently. While I don't roll with his religious sentiment, I absolutely categorically agree with 98% of the stuff that he talks about. People will label him an Uncle Tom. Actually, they're misusing the term Uncle Tom. They'll label him a coon. They'll say he's buck dancing because, as you said earlier, Sir Tice, that we have strayed away from um, our core principles, which this country was founded upon. Now, granted, they've interjected some elements of racial dominance in there, and I don't have a problem with it because any country you go to is based upon that. You go to Japan, what do you think they're preaching? You go to China, what do you think they're preaching? You go to India, what do you think they're preaching? Every country on this planet has some element of superiority in it that allows them to coalesce and push forward. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's what somebody does with it. Just the same way as a weapon. A weapon is neither good nor bad. If I give a weapon to a good guy, the weapon is good. If I give a weapon to a bad guy, it's bad. We have to understand that in order to get ahead, we're going to have to work with people that may not look like us, may not necessarily think like us, but we have a common goal. Frederick Douglass is quoted as saying, I will work with anybody to do the right thing and nobody to do the wrong thing. This is something I said last week. We
Spot
are
on.
not we are not willing to jettison some people out of our culture because they mean us no goddamn good. And when we start doing that, that's when the culture will improve.
Totally agreed. I mean, I'll let somebody else talk, but I can build upon that. So, but if somebody else wants to go, feel free.
Anita, Shaughnessy.
I'm just listening. Like I just got on, so like where are we at?
Well,
Well,
we
let me say
covered.
this. Let me say
Go
this to
ahead.
what Herb
Go ahead,
just said.
Santice.
Let me say this what the Herb said. You know, we all have our no-nos. I think everybody has a no-no with playing with children, if you will. Okay, you know, okay, that should be an across the board 100% playing with children. When I see people rationalizing drag shows, or I'm sorry, family-friendly drag shows, I I immediately know those people are sick. I don't want to have no common ground with them. I'm gonna admit that or whatever, okay, right? And that goes across the racial line or what have you. What I want to say is this: with now the advent of technology, we are more closer to everyone than
Mhm.
ever. I've always like I have I should say little cousins. They're younger cousins. Some of my uncles had kids when they were damn near my age in their late 40s or 50s or what have you, right? So I don't try to come to them as an uncle. I try to come to them as a peer, but I'm an older peer of theirs, you know. And I tell them, chase your interests. Forget, you know, you're like, well, like one of them is into a field where there's not a lot of black people in it, right? But because he's grown up, you know, I would say most Gen Z people don't see things like we see it or what have you. He has no problem interacting with the people. Like he's like into anime and things
I
like
was
that.
just going to say, it sounds like an anime person.
Yeah. And whereas I've seen so many people when I was growing up, like I'm a big music head, right? But the only music that I can't tell you anything about is country or whatever, right? Any other form of music, whether it's rock, soft rock, new wave, obviously hip hop, R&B, all this, I can tell you everything about it. I can damn near write a book on it myself. So I was the black guy going to these Motley Crue concerts when I was younger or what have you, but I had no problem looking like the oddball because I was confident in myself. Yeah, it
Yeah.
turned, you know, heads. It's no different than when I would see certain white kids at the old school hip hop events, you know, when I was coming up in the late 80s, early 90s and what have you, you know, they may seem like an oddball, but for them to actually venture out into this, it tells me something. And no, they're not grifting or anything like that. I just hate that we're just looking at what I shouldn't say I call it, I stole this from somebody, but I call it, we're in 2023 and we're looking at fucking Crayola boxes right now.
Yeah.
Like, our issues are so, I want to say we have no values anymore. We don't promote, man, that's a man of faith. People will say, oh, that's a bitch ass motherfucker, or he's soft. I'll show you some men of faith that'll whoop your, that'll whoop
they put it
your
in front of you.
ass or whatever, okay, and won't think nothing of it. But we've associated, upstanding people, or if you're in your sentences right or what have you, with being soft or this, or they ain't got swag. We've projected the ignorant person to where it's like, okay, I live in South Florida, for those of you who don't know. I see white kids with gold teeth, not all, but I see white kids with gold teeth. And I'm like, you look like a dumbass, okay? And it's like, but what's wrong with him wearing gold teeth? He can wear what the fuck he wants. That's okay. It would be no different than if a black man had a damn Confederate flag scarf on his fucking head or whatever. That's what he looks like to me in gold teeth. You're mimicking downtrodden culture because you think that it makes you fit in, or you're going to go to people who are going to judge you differently. And I thought we were, well, when I say past this racial problem, what I mean is just interacting. And again, I think the younger people are doing it. That's why we can see a white kid with gold fronts and he looked dope, man. I'm like, no, you look stupid. Just like the black person who looks stupid with it, But, and yes, I'm saying it is stupid across the board. But when I hear the older people like us, say dumb shit like I forget, it was something that you said in the intro or whatever. I don't know if you could read it, or in the description, it was like, why you sleep or why you kiss your dogs in the mouth. And I'm in my head like,
yep.
First of all, okay, I saw y'all too with pets, by the way. I saw y'all. I saw you, Anita, and I saw Herb even have
I have 4 cats.
shit.
I'm brash about it.
Yeah, but and I can't stand cats, Herb, but you still my dog. But
hey, we even out like Michigan State.
Yeah, good point there. So my point is that I see black people who are so close, who have their dog as their emotional support animal too. And listen, I love dogs, but I don't try to get to, they're not humans to me, they're dogs or whatever, So in other words, what I'm saying is, saying what I've seen black people kiss their damn dogs too or whatever. Why are we helping promote these ignorant, goofy stereotypes?
Right.
That we hate.
Right.
It's no different than if you project yourself as a black man that's like X, just hear me out. And then if you're an Indian man, damn, the young lady just left and I was going to throw this at her. So she said something about the Middle Eastern doctors. Well, they're more dominated.
Shaughnessy.
No, it wasn't Shaughnessy who said that.
No, it was
the other. No, it was the other sister who just left.
Oh,
okay. Or was it you, Sean? Yeah, no, the one who was talking about the Wiccan,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. No, what I was saying is that she said about the Middle Eastern doctors. No, they're not into the westernized medicine. They take it from both. They take the Western and the Eastern medicine, okay? And the Eastern approach is very different than the Western approach. I've had some, I don't want to make this about me, but I've had some very debilitating knee issues from when I used to compete. And I've seen them. I didn't want to have any more surgeries. So I've seen these, I wanted to get different opinions. And here's the whole holistic practice or the approach that works. Those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this, not to make this about medical practices. There are some great things in Western medicine, MRIs, where you're actually looking at what's happening. You're not basing it off a feel. But back to the original point, what I was saying is we got to stop getting past these stereotypes and apply them. And we're just as guilty of it, If we walk down I say this, if you walk down a dark alley and you see 2 unfamiliar people, shit, you're going to be scared regardless of the color, okay? Pardon the expression, ladies or whatever, all black dudes ain't walking around with 12 inches and shit, all, I will say this: the homosexuals probably are, but that's a joke. I'm not trying to comment on a dude's thing, whatever. Pause on that. But
You
all
lucky certain
Asians,
people ain't paying attention to this. You know how
right,
they
right,
are
right,
in the
right, right.
group.
All
I
Asians,
mean, we know what you mean.
right. All Asians ain't smart in math and are geniuses or no karate or any of this goofy bullshit that we hear. I would, but unfortunately, because our culture is now manipulated by the propaganda that's in the media, we accept these things. And that's why, and I want us to get past. I try to, because I'm built for the fight, I try to be in there to try to explain things. What I don't think it works, but nobody can say that I'm not trying to put up the good fight and shit. I think I said something today on your channel, Dave, about why a lot of women deal with a lot of jailbird type of dudes or whatever, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody responded to it, but I explained that despite the fact that they're behind bars, that's a masculine environment, and we're so void of masculinity out on the outside. That trumps that trumps money, that trumps status. That gets into a woman's core. A woman wants to see a masculine man. Hence why that beard thing blew up, because that's the obvious. It's no different than all us men, partner ladies. Like, well, everybody doesn't like big tits, but people love cleavage, whatever. Generally, most men do, or what have you. We all have these biological things. So I was explaining that in prison, those guys, even if they're tough or not, they got to put on a masculine persona, or it's got to be in them. And it's because it's about survival. It's like being in the jungle, and that does come out. But guess what we teach on the outside? Oh, suppress your masculinity. You need to be in your emotions. You need to be emotional. I'm not saying be a fucking maniac, but I think you guys get what I'm coming at.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. He hit on something very, very point. I was listening to a podcast, and I won't mention the individual's name because he's created quite a bit of controversy, among other things. But it was in an article from the publication called The Economist. The Economist is a British publication having to do with economy. And to what Sir Tyson's saying, they surveyed American black women, and they found out that when the incarceration rate rose among black men, that the marriage rate among them dropped. It was very telling, and it explained to me. It really drove home to me in a very succinct way why a lot of women always talk about good men being incarcerated. It's just to what Tice was saying. The same way that men are driven by certain biological traits, if you will, characteristics, if you will, so are women. I'll put that article in the group and I'll tag people in it if you're interested. Just let me know. It was extremely eye-opening, and it really changed my latitude in terms of when I hear a woman say something like that. It was like, wow.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the ladies' thoughts on these things that I said. I touched on some things, and no, I definitely want to hear that article, or not hear, see it.
Yeah, I'll
So,
definitely
yeah.
post it. Oh yeah, it was. I had to go look it up because I didn't believe it. I thought it was just some hogwash, and I was like, "This is real." And the righteous of us brothers, and when I say righteous, I'm not talking religiously. I'm talking about brothers who actually go to work. They're accredited to the neighborhoods, communities we work, go to take care of your kids, whatever the case is. For women who are attracted to a certain type of thing on a biological imperative, that's repulsive to them. They don't want that. That's not what drives their loins. Sorry to say it, fellas. It drives them out. It does.
So, ladies, y'all got anything y'all want to add to that?
I just
Well,
thought
they
that
want.
post was just straight crazy
Huh?
Well,
about what do you want to
no, no,
ask
no.
people.
It's a twist. Oh, I thought you. Oh, I thought you was gonna say you wanted the Ralph Tresvant sensitive man.
Oh, what? Oh, I mean, I do. I like Tevin Campbell, but
So you can run them and all that. Can we talk? Like hell no,
Can we talk in backing motion?
I like everybody. But I was very surprised about, yeah, that post about ask white people. I'm like, what? About mayonnaise and washcloths? Like, I know plenty of black guys and other racial uh, and cultures that don't like mayonnaise and don't wash with a washcloth or soap.
I got a story that you'll actually like, and it's very brief. So I go to this tiki bar weekly or whatever, right? And there's this one. I'll call him a brother, but he's a white guy or whatever. But I call him a brother because he's a brother. He's from Philly. For some reason, I will go here. There's something different with Philly white guys that's different than anybody else. I don't know if you ever encountered Philly white guys. Maybe you have, Dave, because I think you were in Baltimore, so you see these guys or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
They, they're definitely a little bit more on the cocky, front. But anyways, it struck me. I said, "Who's playing this music? This is some good shit. I remember hearing this as a kid, right? He's playing things like Teddy Pendergrass, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, what have you. Some of y'all might be a little too young for this stuff.
What you know
right?
about that, Sir Tice?
Well, Sir Tice is 51 years old, what have you. So
That's it with you.
no, yeah. So he's playing what Wake Up All, and I'm like, who's playing this? How do you know this? And then him and I were talking. Now I've known him for like 9 or 10 years. So one time we talked and he said, man, my dad was the biggest fucking racist there was, but I love the guy, whatever, right? And I think that's his father, and that's his beliefs, whatever, right? He said, my father told me black people's houses were dirty and all this, and it's something Anita said that triggered me in this. Like people's houses was dirty and all this. He said, I never bought it. I'm growing up, I'm listening to this great music, but he said I had some friends in high school that I was cool with, and my father was like, oh, you're fucking with those, those ERs. We'll use that word or whatever, right? He said he went to the army or what have you, and he met this one brother, and he said he never been in a black person's house, and the brother invited him to his house, like on Thanksgiving. I don't know if it was army or college, but you get the point, He's like, man, I got all this head trash in my head from my father. This guy is so cool, but all I got in my head is that black people's houses is dirty and all this. He was like, Tice, I was about to say my government name. He was like, Tice, man, you could have eaten off the floor. They were so, and and even though I love my father, but I looked at my father as like, hey, Dad, you're wrong. You're a piece of shit on this one or whatever, You're just, he said, and that just shattered my complete worldview. It's and my point is sometimes you just need moments like that, But a lot of these stereotypes, they just come from one experience and people love to apply it to the whole, And it to me is lazy thinking at its best. You know what I'm saying? I think like I'll even get into the stereotypes. Ooh, white girls are easier than this. Trust me on this. All women are easy if they're into you. Okay. So those little things
Ladies.
again. Well, no. I'm saying this, what have you, And again, look, I understand it's not going to be this rainbow coalition of things, but I think we should strive for it. They used to say diversity is our strength, but is it really diversity is our strength, or is it? Oh, let me rephrase that. Is it diversity, but you think like me, which is what's happening right now? Go in there and tell you, hey, I'm a black conservative, and I think most of what's going on is bullshit. And I hate 99% of black politicians. Oh, you a coon, you're this. And you know what coon stands for, Herb? I'm going to address you, Herb. You ready? Herb,
Yeah.
you know what I call coon? I say, damn it, I created a new acronym for it. I can't even think of it. I'll post it tomorrow. But the point is that number one, people wouldn't say that to me in my face. Online has given. Oh, by the way, let me add this, and I'll shut up after I say this. What online has done is just, where you think that it would connect us more, and it's connect some of us. Let's not get it wrong, but it's also driven people, and the ignorant people have a ignorant tribe now. You know, their tribe has grown massively, where they can spread their ignorant propaganda. And that's why we
Yeah,
got the Black Woman Haters Club. We got the White Women's Hater Club, the Black Man's Hater Club. We got all these factions where people, where it's like, wait a minute, look at how much time you spending online. How much are you spending with everyone else? And I'll end on this note. Maybe you can throw this as a topic next week. I saw a statistic that blew my mind. It says now 60% of people are meeting their mates online. So we ain't even going out anymore.
yeah.
We ain't
Yeah,
even interacting with people
that's about
like
right.
that. You know,
So, no surprise.
I said a lot, but y'all feel free to jump in. Go ahead.
I will co-sign one thing he said about women, and this pertains to women regardless of where they are in life, what ethnicity are, whatever the case is. Yes, and even Ron Will says something to this effect: that if a woman likes you, she's gonna drop the drawbridge to her. She's gonna put up flares. She's gonna illuminate the runway. She's gonna do everything in her power to say, "Hey, look, come get you some." There's been situations where I thought that a female that I was interested in remotely wasn't interested in me, only to find out, oh yeah, look, all you gotta do is say hi. She's gonna put a lasso on you. She's gonna treat you like you the cave woman. Take you home.
I wish I could share the things I really know. Clan members have smashed Black women and had relationships with them. Black women have smashed. I'm sorry. White women have smashed pro-black dudes.
You mean
Trust me.
have sex with? Like, what do you mean
Yes.
smash?
Yes,
Like, have sex with, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What do you think, man? Yeah. In other words,
I just want to
by
make
the way,
that okay.
okay.
Because
Like
when you
when I
said
say smash,
cool, like that means something different than to me. Like when
okay,
I say I
yeah.
have, okay,
Let's
go
not get
ahead.
into that. No. And I'm glad you said something to this because I was gonna add one point, and you just said Ron Wills does this, and I'll give him props on this. Lust. All these relationships discussions are missing two things. They're missing carnal things and the lust factor. Okay. His wallet means nothing if she finds him sexually attractive or
Oh yeah,
fulfilling.
oh yeah.
Um, her not being able to complete a sentence means nothing. She's got a nice rack, nice waist, and nice ass, or whatever. You're not going to be talking about calculus or algebra formulas, when y'all into it, what have you. Okay, so now, here, let me throw one at you. Anita, sorry, but I gotta say this. Like, I only listen to types
But
of women. I only listen to three types of women. I listen to sex workers, madams, and divorce attorneys. Oh, and maybe bartenders. You want to know why?
they have a
You want
lot
to
of
know why?
exposure to different people.
Ah, well, not only different people, but different people in their carnal state or in an inebriated state. Like a bartender, they see where all the bodies are laid as people in this, and they can be very honest. Now, mind you, these people are typically, think of every bartender or I don't know if you know sex workers, but think of every bartender you know. They're typically they probably will never be a 9 to 5 person ever. Even when they try to get into the 9 to 5 life,
They
they
just can't.
can't because they're just so ingrained in that word because they've been exposed to so much. They know the judges, they know the lawyers who come in there, they know they serve the wife who's cheating on her husband, they know the judge who likes getting dominated, whatever. So I say, and by the way, there's a reason women have to keep up. I don't want to say a facade per se, but they can't tell all their business because A man can fight through shit. A woman, I should say, it's about her reputation.
Right.
And what's happening now is it's with the OnlyFans, Pornhub. Amazing, I know these things, right? You can be a star for being a hoe, and you can look average because men like a different variety of things. And let me add one more thing at the very end. Look at this one channel. Have you ever heard this one channel called Soft Underbelly? So write that down. Look at this YouTube channel. It talks to pimps, whores, and tricks or dudes. Like, I just like paying for it. Yeah, I don't care. I lost my job. I lost my family. I still like being humiliated. And you watch this shit, and you're like, fuck, what the hell is going on? By the way, Davis, if you're a counselor, you'll probably get a ton of material just from that channel alone. It talks to women, it talks to gigolos,
What is it called?
Soft Underbelly. And you, no, but Anita, feel free to go from there or whatever. And again, there was no knock against you. I'm sure you're an honest person, but I'm just saying, I like that raw, uncut thing, when I talk with most women, and most women can't really say the real thing that they really want, I'm not saying you're a liar or anything like that, but feel free to elaborate on that if you like.
No, what you're talking, hold on, Anita. What he's talking about, people that are in the know and is really esoteric, is what's called black pill. And simply that just means not necessarily the worst of human interaction, but humans on a carnal, unvarnished appearance of what they are. That's why very few people, that's why he talks about sex workers as pimps. They see people in their essence. In other words, they see people how they are when they're in certain environments, when they're uninhibited, unhinged, and there's no restrictions. It's almost, if you remember the HBO
like when I drink a
series.
whole bottle of wine on here and it's Counselor Corner After Dark.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I told you what I said. It's real sex on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole goes to the other side of the planet. I don't know if a lot of people are really ready to take that dive, no pun intended, because once you start peeling back the layers, like the DLC said, it gets funky. So yeah.
It destroys people's worldview.
Yeah.
You'll find out, like, I can't tell. Well, I was never really involved in that, but I know people. Okay, think about this. Look at what's going on. Have you heard about the Freaknik controversy?
Oh, we gonna get into that.
So I was at Freaknik, but I'm not. I was at Freaknik in '94. But Anita, have you heard about this, or are you familiar with this?
I didn't hear what you're.
The Freaknik controversy. So Freaknik, have you ever heard of Fantasy Fest? Okay, so all right, Anita, I'm trying to get you into have you ever heard of Bike Week?
Bike Week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bike Week is in Daytona. It gets racy and all that or whatever, right? And you have a lot of judges.
Whoa.
Okay, I've been to that too. That's the white version. Freaknik back in the 90s was the younger version of, it was basically a conclave of college students invading Atlanta and just having a party. But it expanded out to, people just came down to Atlanta. And by the time 94 happened, it was just so many people and women doing freaky things, flashing, twerking. Yes, way back then. Well, it's hard to believe, but that is almost 29 years ago. That is almost 29 years ago, and now they're coming out with the movie. And when I say they, Luke and Jermaine Dupri specifically, so they got some real footage. And a lot of women are coming in their TikTok videos.
Into the
we gonna touch on this one, David, because I don't know if you heard about it, but I did. I was like, uh-oh.
And feel free if you want to explain the rest or whatever. But a lot of people are coming in TikTok videos like, it wasn't no cell phone. Why y'all? A lot of these people are judges and all this, but these are the same people who have been berating men and all this, but now they don't like the fact that their secrets are about to get exposed. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's girls going wild, bike week, all rolled into one. And so, Tice, I'm going to drop a name on you. Saved by the Bell character named Lark Voorhees. Apparently, and I'm saying apparently, and I really want to be kind of gentle when I say this. Apparently, she had the crew run through her.
I don't listen. She's from the D, so that doesn't surprise me. Although I did find her attractive.
What was her
So,
name? What was her
Mark,
name? No,
remember Saved
I
by the
know who it is. What was her name on Saved by the Bell? I remember Screech, and all of them fools.
Lisa Turtle.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Damn, you remember that? Yeah.
Well, I can't. I remember it, but I was listening to a podcast and the money, and he dropped it. I was like, I had to go. I'm still doing some research on that, and that's something. Like I said, that's something we're gonna bring in there because what it boils down to, and you just talked about it, Sir Tyson, was everybody's been at the black man and what quote unquote we've done to black women. You know, we've made them do this. We've taken them out of their element. We made them sluts, if you will. This is just going to show and prove that they were ultimately making these decisions of their own accord, regardless of what black men said they wanted, didn't want. This goes to the heart of why a lot of black men are just saying, you know what, the culture is done. The culture was done starting 30 years ago. Because I remember when I started going to Caravana as opposed to going to Freaknik. Caravana, we
Listen,
had some fun.
brother. I'm from Detroit originally, okay? I was from Caravana from the 80s as a kid to 1998.
Yes.
Man, now mind you, those are Caribbean women. That's a whole another different factor on the sexuality, sensuality tip.
Yes, sir.
You know, and mind you, this is the days before BBL,
Yes.
the common person having boob implants and all this. You're looking at what I call real women, where now we're looking at robots and shit.
Right.
You know, damn. Hey, by the way, let me say this. You got men now getting lace fronts, pectoral implants, calf implants. Yes, you can. I mean, so I'm not picking on the ladies. I mean, I just want you. So you got men doing this fake phony shit, and it's ridiculous. Dudes getting six. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I just this goes back into our earlier point when we were talking about the carnal. Now, I wish people would talk more about the carnal factor. You literally got. Let me say this, but I'll pass the mic back. You got people who go to. Are you familiar with Tantra, Anita? Out of curiosity, are
What
you
is
familiar
it?
with Tantra? Okay.
I will tell you this, Anita. Look up the lead singer from the Police Sting. He engages in what's called tantra sex.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry.
All right.
I can't really
Okay.
hear that well.
Yeah. I'm at a place, whatever. And so, anyways, you got people who act holistic, act like they're, I'm trying to get in tune to nature. I want my chakras aligned, all this bullshit. What they're really doing it is to get the information so that they can, have a sexual advantage. Let's just call it what it is. It's no different than a guy goes to a camp to learn a better crossover, or to run a better route and things like that. The problem is that this stuff, how do I best say this? You just can't take a piece of it and implement it. It works more in a whole factor or whatever. This is why your strippers burn out or your gigolos, despite the fact that they may seem like they live a luxury lifestyle, those dudes are miserable as fuck because their life is controlled by women, even the ones who make a ton of money. But I guess the point we were talking about is going to these events. Oh, I know I was going to say. We don't focus enough on the carnal factors. We focus too much on She makes this, he makes this, who should do this. At the end of the day, her decisions, his decisions are gonna be based on what sexually turns them on. Yeah, you got plenty of people who, and I would love to hear these responses. You got plenty of people, they love their husband, but the mailman turns them out. The husband's a good father, but she can't wait till he leaves. God forbid he doubles back. But somebody else comes around. Plenty of men, man, since we had the kids, we don't even have any fun anymore, and they pay for women. Okay. And to me, a man paying for women, I don't want to get too much into that, but like to me, I personally can't get aroused for something that I pay for that's transactional. That's me personally. It's not because I think I'm the shit or whatever, but also, damn, is she a cop? It's all these things going on in my head. Is she a cop? My career's gonna be over. Fuck it. There's Pornhub.
Yeah,
But go
honestly.
ahead.
Ex hamsters. I just know that from the meme. There's a meme that says if you want to see more hamsters, go to xhamsters.com or whatever. I just
Yeah, I mean,
That state.
this is
I
that'll
said, or
probably be
X video.
something. Yeah,
Or X.
we try to keep it PG for the masses, but there's a listen, people. The sexual underworld is for the large part of the world populace. It is an unknown entity. One of the reasons why I know about it is because I do follow Ron Mills, and he talks about it. I've seen particular TV shows, that have talked about it. Also, I've dealt with married women who say their husband just don't do it for them. Some people have fetishes for black men. Some people have fetishes for Asian women. Some people have fetishes for a whole lot of things.
some people have fetishes for pretty feet.
Yeah, the reason why people don't
Seventh
Yeah,
grader.
that's sick. And that's sick.
Even
to me,
seventh
but yeah.
grader.
the reason
What
why people
fetishes for pretty feet? That's sick.
Well,
the
let me
reason
rephrase that.
the reason why people don't come forward is because they don't want to lose the well-paying jobs that they have.
Well, let me say this. Brother Herb. I think that's listen. I'm all for being honest and transparent, but everything isn't for public display.
Mhm.
So like well, I'm not gonna say that because it just disgusts me and even saying this. But there are certain dudes who like certain things done to them that I think are personally suspect. But you're talking to people. But guess what? You can also talk to a woman. She may like to do that to men or
Yeah.
whatever, and y'all vibe on that level. So what's not good for me may not be good for someone else or whatever. But we do have to recognize we are in a society where we do judge and evaluate. We all do. Let's act like it or whatever. And in my opinion, we shouldn't be. Some things should be behind the bedroom. And I think we've gotten too far to a point. I don't know, Dave, if you've had to deal with this directly or indirectly, but I remember there was one teacher who told me she got out because these middle school kids, I mean, they're fucking in the damn class. Pardon me, they're fucking in the classroom and things like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, fucking or what? I'm like, this happens now.
They're getting it in on certain things. Maybe not actual fucking, but they're getting it in. They're getting some work in.
It's crazy, man.
And let me say this: I think what's messed up. Just to pivot it for just a second. There's a book. Oh my god, I can't think of it. It's funny, I'm gonna reference a book and I can't think of the title. But it was these two sociologists who invaded the pimp underworld of the Bay Area back in the late '60s, early '70s, right? And they fit in and have you. So they're basically they're learning the pimp hoe culture. And one of the conclusions that they reached in the book that just sounds so like, damn, I've never heard it like this, and I've never heard it in any studies I've ever read, was a lot of pimps have been exposed to sex early, and they've had to learn to deal with it. The reason that a lot of women have advantage with sex more than men, women, as they start to feel out when they're 13, 12, or what have you, 14, they're getting approached by older guys, whether they're 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever, and they're like, whoa, what is this? But those older guys, as they're getting fertile, maturing, puberty, all that other stuff, I think early exposure to sex really fucks you up, later on. God forbid you've been violated or had to deal with abuse. Oh my God. Those people were, they're dealing with lifetime issues, but I don't want to go into that because that's a very dark part.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just on but if you're doing things by 14, 15, and things are regular by the time you're 16, what's going to happen by the time you're 20? You're going to explore different things. It's going to go to the other level where, it gets into the group. I'm like there are certain things, and I want to keep it PG, but I'm like, what's sexual about that? Like, what's arousing about someone? I'll use one. What's sexual arousal about the color of orange juice or whatever being? But I don't get that. That's not my thing at all or whatever, right? But for some people who've done everything, I guess the normal things is vanilla. You're nodding your head, so feel free to chime in.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. He's talking to you, Anita.
Oh no, he
like
just
the
said
chastised
normal
cat.
things are like vanilla sex. I get that. I got what he's talking about.
Wow. Yeah, wild as
But-
hell.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, it's not wild as hell. You know the difference between vanilla sex and
No. When I say the normal thing, I mean even just fucking. I won't get into all that. I don't want to make this into a lustful hour. I'll just say this: you got okay. Man, how can I say this very succinctly? I think they say that 20 or 30% of the population is getting sex on the regular. Okay, as far as men. Okay. I think that that's the number. Then you got the people who get it occasionally, which is 20%. And then you got like 50, maybe 40% of people who are getting nothing. I'm talking about men, whatever, right? And
Wow.
okay, no. And let me say this. I personally, and this is where the prostitutes will come in and say, see, we're saving people. We're giving them something. But there's a difference between smashing transactionally and smashing that somebody that wants to be with you. Let's just keep it 1,000, okay? The problem I'm seeing is that combined with social media, dating apps, things of this nature, stereotypes, that 20% number is gonna, or that 20 or 30% number, that's gonna shrink even more. You know, those middle guys, that's gonna shrink even more because at the end of the day, it gets back to the carnal forces and what have you. There's a reason why the king of the jungle, aka the lion, gets everybody, and all this. There's a reason why dudes who got a good Richard report, read between the lines here, I'm trying to keep it PG, who got a good Richard report from the ladies, it's like, okay, that's verified. They do it, and then those dudes recognize, man, this is competitive type shit. I ain't telling them that I smashed all of these people or whatever, and all this, But I don't know. There are signs out there. I would love for us to even talk about, like, what is the inner, like, how do I say this? Certain guys, they don't have a mouthpiece. They're not in shape. They're not this. They just know how to read body language very well. And they know their targets.
Yeah.
They don't even have to know much about you. But if they know just one thing, oh, boom, man, they can go in for the kill. women can certainly look at that guy like, damn, there's a lot of sexual arousal in him. I find him this, even though he doesn't hit any of my numbers. And this is why those conversations are stupid, because they're looking at it from a relationship perspective, not a carnal perspective.
Yeah.
Keep hammering that home or what have you. We've all had one-nighters or episodes of people like, damn, I can't believe I did that fucking shit. We've all had it, whatever. Let's not be honest, or let's not be dishonest about it. But there was something. People say, "Oh, it was only the alcohol," but all the alcohol does is take away your self defense mechanism.
Yep.
How did Dave leave and we're still running? But I'll just let you guys go off on my thoughts.
No, he does that periodically. Yeah, ain't a thing.
Oh, okay, I'll let you guys go because I'm gonna probably switch it to my phone and go in my car. Okay, no, but keep going.
Yeah, but
I have to go. I have homework due in like at 11:59. I have homework due.
Of all the things I said, you can't even just elaborate on one thing.
let's
I mean,
just say.
did I not spit the game? Did I not spit the game or whatever? From
So, Tice, let's just say this: she's slightly handcuffed now.
I understand that, but she can. I mean, I said a lot.
No, that's what I'm saying. She's slightly handcuffed now.
You did say a lot, but I do have homework due at 11:59 tonight. Anyway, I just wanted to ask. Yeah, I know vanilla sex and the wild sex. Like, not everybody likes vanilla sex all the time. Anyway, I just wanted to ask real quick. Well, first I want to make a comment. When he said coon, like some people, like my ex-boyfriend that was black. Well, he still is black, I guess. He used to tell me when I need a pedicure that I got coon feet. And one day I was like, yeah, I do have coon feet. Like, I'm thinking like raccoon feet. But then when I mentioned it like around my other black friends, they're like, what are you talking about, coon? Like, they felt offensive about it. That's why I was like to me, coon feet means like I got raccoon feet. Like, I need to fix
You're dealing with a class of cultures. Coon and inner city lingo is a diss. It's essentially saying you are no good, no account black person. You side with white people. Everything you do is for white people.
And one more thing. Did you guys go over the Riley Gaines, Leah Thomas thing?
No, I don't know if that was on the table, but
No, I don't think it was.
Why people are going against Riley Gaines? I don't care their race. They're pieces of shit. If you support that agenda or what's going on there, like, are you talking about when she was speaking against this and she got attacked? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah.
The fact that she tied against a biological male, and they tied and they gave him the trophy. So now they're saying he's not. He doesn't have body dysmorphia, and I forgot the term for it. He just like gets off on dressing and posing as a female. He's not.
I thought you were referring to when she was at a college. Maybe you didn't see the video, but she was at a college speaking about that, and they attacked her.
Yeah,
Okay, you did. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I can't talk about all the carnal knowledge. I can't get into it because I'll go way overboard. And I got like 20 minutes to get my homework done.
All right, thanks for pulling up. Get your homework done. I'll say something to the fellas before I get in my car.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get on Facebook and listen while I'm doing my homework. So chime me in.
Well, counselor, you heard a variety of thoughts. This is your show. I'd love to hear your conclusion.
I think I'm more confused than before, because we were all over the place, and it bounced from many places. I went to the dark world, to the underworld.
Well, I do that because, okay, I can actually tie that map for you. Okay, you have the surface level, you have the stereotypes, then you get into the inner core, the carnal knowledge, and all this that trumps all the stereotypes and all this, and what have you, right? Like this started off as a simple thing, white people and their stereotypes said by ignorant people. Would black people have been amenable to us having tails? I mean, that's what that thread sound like. Us having tails. Like it was things like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry for the noise in the background there, but I'm trying to think of the stereotypes I saw mentioned on white people, washcloth or whatever,
Yeah.
or do we wash? Why do we look funky? I mean, I'm saying black people would have been claiming all kinds of racism and all that shit had those shits been said about us. So we're us being the ones who actually dealt with this bullshit. We should be the main ones to be compassionate's not the right word I want to use, but basically recognizing, you know what, we need to be the ones to be having level heads. And what I'm noticing now is that people are just more ignorant than ever, which tells me they have a lack of exposure to things.
Yep.
And you just got to leave those people where they are. No, I'll bring this home. And then it just tied into where I say, like, a lot of the relationship discussions, they really aren't focused on the real core things. That
Yeah.
carnal knowledge, or that carnal thing. This is why a couple, oh, they were so perfect together. Well, their sex life is bad. And I hate to say this, that will save more of a marriage than how educated the guy is, even to how good of a father or mother that the parents are. It's fucked up, but it is what it is. We've seen what we consider on the surface the perfect couples, they stray off. Look at Bill Cosby, okay? I don't mean that bullshit that got him in the jail, but shit, that nigga was at the damn Playboy Mansion every week. Who did not know that the Playboy Mansion was a brothel? But we just accepted the factor that he's just there networking. Yeah, he's networking, all right. He's networking, and they said he was there regularly. I ain't talking about that bullshit court cases, unsealing sealed indictments. That was bullshit. I'm making a point that he was looked at as the icon of the culture. That dude was trying to get it in his damn self. And by the way, dude, you Bill Cosby. You ain't gotta do all this goofy shit or whatever. They gonna drop it like it's hot for you.
Some white person put him onto that. That's maybe a myth or whatever. Somebody put him onto
No.
that.
Well, right. I don't disagree. Well, I'll say this. This is why I'm like, I hate agreeing with what we call the game guys, but where the game guys do win, it gets back into my point about the carnal knowledge. They do at least recognize that there's a sense of a sexual attraction into things, and if you appeal to that sexual attraction, like me, I'm a hardcore so-called black conservative. I still get it in, even though my politics are 99% opposite of 90% of the women that I like to fuck with, whatever, right? We all know who that is, right? Black women, whatever, right? But they ain't calling me no coon in the bedroom. They, because there's a sexual imperative. Now I'm gonna throw one more at you, and then I'm gonna go, or what have you. Rob Wills introduced this concept. Maybe we should get him on one of these shows.
Woo.
Yeah, Rob Wills introduced, and he likes the smaller things. Are you familiar with Rob Wills, Dave? I mean, Herb
Yeah.
is.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay,
I
so
am.
absolutely.
Yeah, I am.
Rom says women have an imprint. Are you familiar with that or no?
With an imprint.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
an imprint is the first three people that they smash, or this is Sir Tice's angle. The first three people that turn them out, that is the archetype that they're chasing for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So let's go into the hood, for example. The thugged out, tatted, neck tats, must, arm sleeve and all this dude who looks that pants sagging, but he sexually turns around. 10, 15 years later, on the surface, he may not look like that, but what are his other characteristics? That's what she's looking for. Okay. And we do not factor that in. That's why it's important. Like I say for guys, you're wasting your time if a woman is not interested in you off the rip. You
Yeah.
cannot force attraction. You're like, no, you got to keep trying. Oh, you can keep trying.
Let that mess go.
Right. She gonna, he could have took her out on a second date. No, no. They're just using you as a dinner whore. you know. So feel free to build on that. I mean, you're the professional, so I would love to hear your thoughts. I gotta go, but I'm listening on my phone.
All right, all right, all right. That was a lot.
Yeah, man. There's been a lot of ground covered in tonight's show, especially in the second half. Once we strayed into a little bit of the underworld, and to follow up with what Sir Tyson's talking about in terms of the imprint for women, it exists for both genders, but we're just going to focus specifically on females. He talked about what I term as Native Black American or Black women. If you want to see, you know how I like to give out homework assignments based on movies so you can get some education and some entertainment. If you want to see what this looks like for Caucasian women, there was an older movie, it's got to be about 25 years old, starring Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins, called Legends of the Fall. An excellent, well-written, well-acted movie. Watch that movie and watch at the end how it turns out. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I'm just going to tell you to watch the movie, and that's what Sir Tyson's talking about. But this is from a Caucasian perspective. Irregardless is not even a word. Regardless of the gender, I'm sorry, not the gender. Regardless of the ethnicity, that theory, even though it hasn't been picked up by mainstream science, exists. This is why you hear people say, he has a type, she has a type. That's what it stems from.
Yeah, it was so much. It was so much going on, and I understand that. And that's why and for me, and I know how, how people learn. Like sometimes it's information overload for folks,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I like stuff to be dropped in the Facebook group, and then we bring it here. I wish those same people would be vested in saying, okay, let me jump in the chat here. But I understand why not, because it's live, it's happening. So you can make a comment on Facebook and just leave it there, and hopefully somebody respond back. But to come with something live and you can see it and somebody responding to it, they want no parts of that. So everything we do is like half ass. So we never get any major points across. But yeah, it's a lot to it all. And even we didn't get to our second talking point, and some told me like I shouldn't even put that down because we're not going to get to it. Even talk about the myths and stuff like that. But then it ventured off into healthcare and just stuff like this. So it was it was a lot. So I'm still trying to ponder what is my closing comment for this.
You know what? I've taken to starting to write certain things down, like my opening monologues and some things. That way, I got to come up with something because this, for me, as odd as this is going to sound, it was personal, and it was personal for a different reason. And I want us as a demographic, even though we like to believe we're not a monolith, we have to start, as like Social Ty said, we have to start emerging from this cocoon of perpetually being victims and then turn around and taking that victimhood and trying to weaponize it. What I mean by that is this: we can't say that we don't want people to say that slavery didn't matter, that it wasn't that bad, but then turn around and call somebody a devil, that say you're a white supremacist without knowing them.
Yeah.
We have to shut ourselves to that nonsense, regardless if it's remotely true, remotely false, or not true at all. Because there's going to arise a time when that's no longer a viable excuse for you to be impotent as an adult, as a man. You can only blame your situation for so long because people are going to turn around and say, hey, well, look. Matter of fact, I'll frame that discussion in this way. I had a conversation with a young brother in the store today, and he heard me talking about something. He said, "You sound smart." I said, "Well, thank you." He said, "Let me ask you a question." We got into a conversation. I asked him, I said, "What is it that you want to do?" And he started telling me about what he was doing. I said, "No, no, no, no." I said, "What is it that you want to do?" He said he wants to open his own business, open his own factory. I said, "So are you taking any business courses?" He said, "Yes." I said, "You studying finance?" He said, "Yes." Those are the things that we need to start focusing on. It's like So Tight said, can't no system hold them back. Another thing I alluded to when I was talking to the young brother in the store, I said, if we know where the potholes are, then why can't we avoid the potholes? We talk about the system this, the system that. If you know how the system is set up and the system is geared to trip you up, then avoid the traps.
Well, I think that's the problem. Whatever that we handcuffed, or people want to be handcuffed, that they don't want to try to uh, avoid the system. We still caught out there. Like I said, listen. If I wasn't in education, it wasn't my livelihood. I would expose the shit out of it. Expose the shit out of it. Uh, I think totally different than I used to think.
Mhm.
And I could say, for example, even with sports, I used to like, oh no, everybody should graduate, go to college for 4 years and all that, and never understood like why would somebody 18, 19 go on. Then as you start getting wiser to the game, like, there's no, you can go to fucking college all you want, but you may never make as much money as some of these gifted and skilled individuals can make at 18 or 19. Then when we think about that NIL thing,
Oh man, woo, game changer.
how they're getting paid and stuff like that, and I'm like, this college thing is a hustle.
Mhm.
It's been a major hustle, and you'll never see me like when people post up their kids' grades and that don't mean nothing in this world. What they did is game just to think you can go there because they're still moving the goalposts back every
Right.
time, no matter what degrees you have. And that's why I say, man, get you skills is where it's at. Get you a skill. That's why even if you connect that to the NBA or football, people who got skills in certain areas, they still play. They last a lifetime when they got a skill. Whether you're an offensive line, whether you're a punt returner, you specialize in something. The ones that got a specific skill in certain areas, and even in basketball, you like, oh, all he could do is shoot, but they still play till they like 37, 38 years old because they got a specialized skill. Now you go to college, you don't really have no skill.
Yeah.
You got knowledge of stuff, but
Right.
shit ain't working, man. It ain't working. I've been hoodwinked for a long time. And I'm ready to erupt, but I just hold back. And but my approach is different. Now I listen to more what kids say and what they want to do, and I'm like, hey, world is yours, man. Just connect with the right people and do what you got to do and stay the course. But nah, man, it's things ain't right. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
man.
crazy.
It's a world we live in, man. It's the world we live in. And some people trying to go against the grain, or I would tell people, don't try and go against the grain. Just find a part of the river that you can flow in and flow in that vein. Everything that steal that is stick to your lane. Don't try and do something that you're not accustomed to do unless you're trying to learn a new skill or a new attribute. If you can carve out a little piece of Americana and it works for you, make it work. Find what it is that you do, excel at it, and if it can pay you well, do it. As a matter of fact, there was an author, and I don't know his name. I think he's a Japanese gentleman, and he said, "I don't write books because I like to write. I write books because I like to have a lot of money." And it was having the money that afforded him all the spare time to do the things that he wanted to. He writes part of his time, and he's off the other half. He's enjoying life. And that's all what we want to do. We all want to have enough time to do the things that we like. So, in order to do the things that we like, we got to do things that we don't like. So, find out what it is that's going to pay you the most, do it the best. And if you can do it least and make a ton of money, you're in the catbird seat. You got a marketable skill or a marketable ability or talent that's going to pay you. Get paid. Get paid. Get paid, young man. How the Muhammad Ali said, rumble, young man, rumble.
Yeah, and that's really where it's at. With your skill set, and even in out here, and when we talk about relationships, whatever, you got to bring your best skill to the thing. You got to bring your best. This is what I do. This is who I am. They don't like it. Fuck it. Then that's when you have to move on. There's no need to keep chasing someone and hoping and spending tons of money and all of that stuff. Uh, that regime is old. We post a lot of stuff, and you hear what these women say. "Oh, I don't want this man. I don't want a broke man." And all, but you ain't got a pot to piss in. None of that stuff makes it doesn't make sense. Whatever. You ain't got shit. And from my back in that days when I used to hear older people say, "You ain't got shit, you ain't about shit, you don't know nobody that shit," all that shit equate together. Because people who got shit usually roll with people who has shit and they know how to get shit. Yeah, I don't know. And it's scary to think about out in this world. And when you see again, when we see people when they make their posts and all that, "Oh, I'm looking for this, God gonna deliver me this or this, I'm waiting for this man," and all that. When you get in your 40s and 50s, that shit dead, man. Hey, you got to create a way.
Yeah.
You got to create a path yourself. You can keep waiting. You can go to church. You can get on your damn knees. You can do whatever. You could put up a sign on the intersection. Do what you got to do, but somehow you're gonna have to navigate and control your own destiny. As far as that, a lot of us we don't have that wherewithal to try to control our own destiny. So we end up in a screwed position. And so that's what it would have made an interesting segment two, which we'll probably talk about next week, where about married couples not living together and living separately. Because the whole hypocritical thing about it is, in one breath, Yah will say, "Well, you shouldn't live with nobody. You shouldn't be shacking up until you marry." Now tell me how that works. You get married, then all of a sudden somebody packs their fucking bag and you move in. You've never been together in a household. You don't know each other patterns. You don't know anything. And now you married and you can't stand this, you're irritated or whatever the case is. How does that work? So some people has wising up and said, "Hey, We can afford it. Looking at our budget, I'm gonna stay here. You're gonna stay there. You can come see me some of the time. I'll come over there. We good. And I'm secure about what you got going on. Are you secure what I got going on? And we all right and we happy.
Mhm.
But religion says a different thing, and then family says. And I know that Jackie wanted to hone in on that part, the religious aspect of not living together and all that. When you wake up, Jackie, we gonna talk next week. We gonna talk about that. We gonna talk. We gonna talk. But hey, I can understand. I can understand. And people say, why get married then if you're doing everything separately? Well, what's your goal of marriage?
There's some advantages.
Yeah.
I believe that.
What's the goal of it? Are you trying to build an empire together, or is it about love? What is it about? So we don't post these and talk about these subjects just to be talking. It's real stuff to put out there, and it's probably good for people that's younger than us to think about it. But I read the comments constantly, and I'm gonna tell y'all, if y'all not a part of the Counselors Corner, join it.
Yeah.
Most hated group in America.
I'm gonna give my. Go ahead.
The most hated group is man. Sooner or later, the Counselors Corner be labeled like KS. Man, they can't stand the Counselors Corner. Can't stand it. But the same people say they can't stand it. They ain't never left.
Yeah.
They still here. They still there after they told me. They inboxed me personally. Said, I can't take it no more, David. I'm getting out this group. I said, all right, well, it used to be different. I said, well, the thing about groups, dynamics change, different people come and go. It might be one or two people that kind of could shift everything. I said, if you think about it in that classroom setting, you may be a teacher that your classroom was perfect all year. Then one kid comes in third quarter and raise hell and change the whole dynamic of what you built. And now you got to make adjustments. A lot of people don't want to make adjustments to the conversations now because some of these conversations is real uncomfortable to people. Uh, they're not liking it, and they think I'm supposed to play referee all day.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not doing it. Handle it as grown-ups. You say you grown, then be grown.
Yeah. It's the difference between, I believe, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. One electron. That's it. And I'm gonna offer my closing thoughts. So here we go. We as an ethnicity can be hypocritical. We want people to be sympathetic, sensitive to our issues, causes, and the like. Yet we will not give the same to other people. Why is that? Is that we don't believe we need to or have to? Do we erroneously believe we have a monopoly on being offended in stereotype? So Asians don't have to or haven't faced that? What about Native Americans, East Indians, Sheiks are often misclassified as Muslims? So when the question was posed in the Counselor's Corner, and I took a keen interest in the responses, particularly since one of the points last week we had to do was with Native Black Americans, I was thrilled that a few of our former panelists, and Anita was on tonight, had some pushback because the questions were bigoted. People will say that they're not. They weren't. They were. I don't care what anybody says. Look up the term bigot. Let me get back. I'm sorry. I also addressed these in some of the other. One of a person who I can't even see any longer asked, "What would happen if the roles were reversed? The outrage would be unbearable," and she was correct. Last week, there was a series of targeted questions asked by a newcomer. That individual is no longer in the group. Now, I don't know if the person was an agent, provocateur, or troll. Either way, the questions hit a nerve and have people question, is that what we do in the counselor's corner? Or somebody said, well, this is on the admin. Let him hold us out. Anyone has the ability to start a group. Nothing in this group description says blacks only. Now, whether David adding this person was intentional or not, I think it was a stroke of genius. Because we all need to look deeper into the mirror and address our own insecurities. And as far as I'm concerned, some of the people that were talking about get this dude out of the group need to take a look in the mirror. You're two peas in a pod. And as always, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
It's hard to follow up with that last. That was good information because I suddenly had forgot about it. You know, he came in, made people feel uncomfortable. People went on, looked at it, said, "Oh, like a Confederate thing and all that." Some of the stuff is just to throw y'all off, whatever the case is, whatever their identity. But the stuff that he actually said was never racist, whatever. It may have been specific toward certain thing. Well, black women may felt like they got singled out, but it's been enough of this stuff on social media that black men is post about them as well. So I'm kind of lenient. I'll let stuff go on. I'll let it go on because I do understand you have the power and the control to say stroll through and say this post right here. It's like a buffet. Like I always say, this is not for me. To get tangled up and get emotional about something someone posted and take it personal, you gotta, like Herbert said, you gotta look in the mirror. You gotta look in the mirror. Because there's a lot of stuff I'll go through and I say, I'm not looking at that. I'm not clicking on that. And something says to me that you like it. You like it. You like it, and something hit home that you clicked on and you want to hear what people have to say about it. But y'all will never admit to that. And then y'all quick solution is, well, blame it on the admin. Because you know it's only one admin. So it's me. But my initial thing, I haven't changed, or my approach hasn't changed on anything I ever said when I started this group. I said it's all about different perspectives, and we're going to talk about core areas. And let me say that again: friendships, family, relationships, uh, health, and we talk about all this stuff. It's posts about all this stuff: education, work, loyalty, mistrust, the dating game, and child drama. That's been the mission. I make sure I have posts dealing with all of those different topics. Even when I talk about um, the drama at the schoolhouse. So all of the stuff is there. And even when guys post about women, well, if they're a black guy, their experience may be with black women. So they may talk about black women. Duh. Duh. So deal with it. And as a woman, then you have the right to say, okay, we're gonna come up with our own post. No, the problem is, yeah, I want to be nosy and see what all the guys is posting, but don't want to give no feedback when you can come with your own stuff too. Now, not all, because some of y'all do make posts, whatever. Shout out to y'all for doing that, but stop coming to me, whatever. I'm not no damn evil person. Like y'all acting like I'm freaking Adolf Hitler or something. For him, some people considered him great, but I just put the stuff out there and say, hey, we got to have these conversations no matter what. They're there. And a lot of times we be ahead of the game than other people. They catching on late to stuff, and we're already talking about stuff. And thanks to people like Herb and all them stuff that did further research that bring out stuff that brought out stuff years ago in this group. And then after it got popular, everybody wanted to start talking about it. Kevin Samuels, for example. Nobody was talking about that. But Herb was bringing up him for years. But then once it be, you seen memes and all that stuff, then everybody started talking about it. Like, do something different and feel uncomfortable sometime. Again, there's always going to be growth in that. Stop going through your regular timeline, dealing with the same people from your city, because that's mostly who on your timeline,
Yeah.
and their feedback, and join a group where it's dialogue and discussion, and you're like, damn, I never knew that. I never thought about that. And there's people from all over, pretty much all over the world.
Yeah.
That's in it. And you'll see how your thought process will change. So I don't even know if I got a closing comment, but I always come back the following day with my closing comment of the show. But the one thing I did want to talk about, skills. Get you a skill.
Yeah.
Get you a skill in something. Figure out what your skill is and ride it out. Ride it out. Do research. Practice it. Reach out to people who's in that same area to help you out. If you have a skill somewhere, you always have a job.
Yeah.
Somewhere. So make sure you do that. Whether you do hair or whatever the case is. And if it's something you don't know how to do, well, I don't know how to do braids. I don't know how to do it. Then talk to somebody who know how to do it and take time to do it and hone up your craft. Do what you got to do. Even with this, I never thought I'd be doing the broadcast, podcast, and all that stuff. But my channel was growing. My channel's growing. I sit back and see who people interview me, and they got channels and all that stuff. They are still at 1 subscriber, 20, 30, 40. Shit, I'm trying to break down the doors of 700. So it's been a slow process, but got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. And I'm not saying I'm ready to be a professional at this, but I do think certain areas, when I get better skilled at, that once I wind down my educational thing, I'm like, oh, I'm still going to get money.
Yeah.
That's the setup. I'm still going to get money. I'm going to get money. And that's what I'm determined to do. So I encourage y'all all that. Get a skill. Yeah. For your kids, get a skill. Don't get hoodwinked because they got 95 averages and all that stuff. They better have a specific skill in something. And when they do that, money will keep flowing in.
Yeah.
Because other than that, it'll be just student loans or whatever the case is. Hone in on something. Lock in on it. Follow, like I said, some of the best people to follow through is in sports. The Black Mamba, Kobe, whatever. Buy that book. Or listen to videos of great people who went on to do great things. It's some of it, and then it always got to be sports people, but other legendary people, you got to find somebody to follow behind and say, damn, I don't want to be them, but damn, I want to pick up on pieces like them so I can move forward. So with that said, good people, like I said, get you a skill, work at it, add to it, do the best you can at it, and you always have something going on. I appreciate everybody who was on the chat. Thank everybody for coming on the panel. And
I just want to add something else to that.
Go ahead.
In addition to getting books by people you like in the profession and disciplines that you are following, don't be afraid to go get books that are written about world leaders. Churchill, even though he lost an election, he is arguably a pinnacle and pivotal person in British history. Stalin is another one. Go read books on their leadership styles, how they use certain things to garner support. And also how they were used, because you can't be on guard against certain things that you don't know about. This is what happens. We see this now in AAU sports, where a lot of these players, they only do one thing. They don't diversify. So all of the things that people my age or David and my age, we did well, or we did reasonably well, these kids don't have an idea. I grew up playing baseball, football, soccer. You got these AAU kids who only play basketball that can't swing a bat, can't throw a football, can't throw a baseball, can't kick a soccer ball. So what happens when you get to a certain level and your skills top out and you can't make the money that you think you was going to make it? This is why David talked about the nil, because the nil becomes so important that you don't have to do well academically if you have a skill that's marketable. So now that you're in that pocket where you can make $300,000 in your collegiate year, and if you're there and you're reasonable, you can graduate high school with your college paid for, no student loans, and you got a nest egg to invest in. So now you want to open a basketball camp. You want to get all these kids that go in there. That's fine. But don't forget the educational component of it too. Because all these parents thinking that their kids are going to be the next best thing, you can't tell them that they're not. So profit off of their ignorance. Yes, I said it. Profit off of their ignorance. But do it with the understanding that you're telling these kids, hey, look, the chances of you going pro in this particular sport, now that basketball is a global sport, is 1 in 100 million. Okay? That's the reality of going pro in basketball. We ain't talking about the other sports because it's less. In basketball, at least there's enough professional sports in the world where you can land somewhere. There's a gentleman from here named Paul Harris. Shout out to Duggar, man, who's a professional basketball player, and he's not playing in the United States of America. He's made a fantastic living for his family. Went to the Syracuse University, played for Jim Boeheim. Him and Johnny Flynn, both local products, both doing well. Like David said, have a marketable skill.
And that's it. And you think about it. Y'all know how much Bronny James getting paid without his dad. $7 million a year. 18 years old. Yeah, I know Angel Reese, whatever. She know more than just doing that. She make like 800,000 a year. She not pressed for the what is it
WNBA.
WNBA, because some of them, which is a travesty, that their max salary is only a couple 100,000 a year. So she not pressed. She killing it. I just subscribed to her, and I'm like, she got videos and videos just coming out, just doing stuff, going shopping, all these brands supporting her, and I'm like, she killing it. She killing it. And you know what? She got game. She's a beast on the court, whatever, and she marketable, whatever. So what the NIL mean? I mean, I know image, likeness. What does the N mean?
Name, image, and likeness.
Name, image, and likeness. So a lot of times it's about shit, who you
Those
are,
things.
your personality, whatever, and make people say, yo, they're marketable. And they gravitate to you because they're looking for folks that can support their brand, whatever. So she's set, she's good, she's in a good place, and that's why she can do what she do, and she's about to make some good money. She's set, she's straight,
And
and I,
the
and I
thing
like to
about
see
it is
that.
this: she might not even go to the WNBA. That's the kicker.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. They worried about Bronny, like where he's gonna go to college or whatever. Yeah, he he keep honing up his skills, whatever. Who knows? Who knows what he's gonna do? He ain't pressed,
No,
no matter what.
literally, he can write his own ticket to wherever he
Yeah,
want to go.
yeah. He don't have. He's not pressed. He don't have to worry about it. Then he got a younger brother that's coming up, whatever. So they're set. But LeBron put in the work for that, and that's what it's all about. following a legacy and doing whatever. Because we got to understand, once you're gone. You can't take nothing with you. So you got to try to find a way to maximize and be the best that you could be while you living.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop sweating income taxes and shit like that. And little small dollars and say, damn, how could I be the best that I could be? How could I step out my comfort zone to do something different, to put myself out there? So here it is. Y'all might not like what we have to say, but some people they get it and they understand. That's why they haven't left the group because there's some eternal drive. And meanwhile, this is a good game going on now. Is Golden State gonna go down 2-0? I don't know. We'll see. I gotta believe that Curry and them ain't about to go down 2-0. Draymond is such a jerk, but he another one.
Draymond gonna be who Draymond is. We know
Draymond gonna be Draymond, but Draymond is also he know how to he work in that podcast thing, and he's got an inside connect with the thing, so he's gonna be all right, no matter what. He's gonna be all right. All right, good people. I don't want to belabor the point. Please like and share this video. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. To the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. If you're on Facebook and you want to hear what goes down in the most hated group, I'm going to start hashtagging that shit. I'm going to blow that shit up. The most hated group, the counselors. In fact, I'm about to put a hashtag on it. People going to join because y'all nosy as fuck, white or black. So, and they gonna see what's going on in there because, like I said, everybody complain they ain't went nowhere because I think they may be bored at work or something. They say, "Well, let me go to the counselor's corner and see what these jerks or idiots talking about." So there you have it. Whatever. So everybody, be safe, be well, enjoy your week, enjoy the weather or whatever the case is. We'll see you next time and chime in. And if you want to join the panel, please do so. We hear it. Inbox Herb, inbox me, and we'll make it happen. All right, folks, we out. See you next time. Peace.